Chapter 51. Heavens Above 1. I first wandered around various parts of Ascension Path. I visited the dwelling of the core formation demon fox, but all that remained were bloodstains and white fur. The fox was nowhere to be seen. It seemed that Sea Dragon King's statement about the heavenly being cultivators capturing all creatures above Kai building and core formation level was not an exaggeration. The fox's cave does have denser spiritual energy. I absorbed some of the spiritual energy around the fox's cave. However, since Ascension Path itself had spiritual energy 4 to 5 times denser than Yongyuo and Byokra, it didn't really matter where I practiced. First, I returned to my original cave, stored some food, and began practicing the 5 surpassing paths to cultivation. After a month of practicing, I managed to activate the spiritual meridian corresponding to the first level of the 72 earthly Sha, the Earth Leader Star. Practicing with all my heart in the dense spiritual energy of Ascension Path seemed to have expedited the activation. Following the training method of understanding before breakthrough from my past life and enhancing my understanding of true words and hand seals also seemed to help greatly. I'm relieved to have quickly overcome the most worrying hurdle. The Earth Leader Star Meridian was one I had forcibly activated by absorbing random spirit stones in my previous life, practicing breakthrough followed by understanding. Despite later enhancing my understanding of the Earth Leader true word and practicing hand seals, I was a bit worried, but it turned out well. Now that I've activated the spiritual meridian and reached Kai refining first star, though it's a bit challenging, I should be able to use basic spells. Perhaps it's time to head towards the Ascension Gate. I decided and looked in the direction where Jin Bayuk Ho, White Bone Ghost Devil, Sir Chang Ho, and Co Hweal had flown. Entering the Ascension Gate seemed only feasible for those at the level of heavenly being or higher. But exploring the outskirts might be possible. Maybe, just maybe, there could be clues around the Ascension Gate. Previously, I couldn't return once I left Ascension Path because the Mad Lord instantly threw me and Kim Young-hoon into spatial rifts. It was different now. All right, let's go. I set out towards the direction of the Ascension Gate. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. I flew through the air, stepping on the threads of heaven and earth spiritual energy, taking in the landscapes of Ascension Path. Though not yet at the Kai building level, I saw all kinds of bizarre creatures. I also spotted unfamiliar herbs, strange plants, and very peculiar spiritual herbs. Most of the special spiritual plants seem to have been taken by the heavenly being cultivators, lacking the precious ones. After days and nights of leaping through the air, rumble, rumble. Around the 10th night, I saw a bizarrely shaped thundercloud in the distance. Swirling without any air currents, it condensed and stormed in the sky. Right below the center of the thundercloud, on the ground, a white light radiated. That's the Ascension Gate. Perhaps the very cause that brought my companions and I to this world. I gazed quietly at the Ascension Gate. I wanted to get a closer look. Rumble, rumble. Lightning constantly struck from the thundercloud, incredible lightning. Below the thundercloud, lightning poured down like rain at an incredible speed. Below the clouds, dark spatial rifts were opening, twisting as if to capture anything that came near. The space around the Ascension Gate was distorted, with black spatial rifts opening their mouths, writhing as if to devour anyone who approaches. I need at least core formation strength, maybe even higher to approach that. I clicked my tongue, unable to muster the courage to get closer, and could only observe, as I observed the Ascension Gate and thundercloud. Huh! Below the thundercloud, above the Ascension Gate, something was floating in the air. What's that? It was too far to see clearly. Even focusing my internal energy to enhance my vision only made it vaguely visible, and I couldn't make out what it was. The faint object continuously absorbed the lightning from the thundercloud, floating gently, looking very suspicious. Damn, I'm really curious about that. After pondering, I looked for a safe spot near the Ascension Gate and resumed my cultivation. Once I accumulate more spiritual power, I should be able to use the 10-Lie-Eye spell, get a clearer view. 2 months passed. The size of the Ascension Gate halved over time. In the meantime, I managed to activate about 12 more spiritual meridians. The ample spiritual energy of Ascension Path certainly helps, but the speed is much faster since these are the meridians I had already opened through Understanding Before Breakthrough. Understanding Before Breakthrough is a method of accepting spiritual energy not through inherent qualities, but through acquired effort and understanding. The higher the understanding of true words, the faster the training progresses. Having been personally taught by my master, my comprehension of basic true words is unrivaled. I operated the spiritual power flowing through the meridians, utilizing the 10-lie-eye technique to examine the object above the Ascension Gate. Objects within 10-lie appeared as if they were right before my eyes. It's a steel. The steel absorbed the constant thunderbolts from the thundercloud, using that power to float in the air. There was something written on it. Leave it behind for future generations, relinquish your desires and ascend. Those who do not adhere will face calamity. On closer inspection, the top part of the steel was gone. I couldn't read the top part, but the remaining inscription seemed like a warning left by a cultivator for future generations intending to pass through the Ascension Gate. What does it mean to leave behind? Is it referring to spirit stones, spiritual treasures, or elixirs? Another thing. The inscription on the steel was written in an ancient language used for education in Yangnuo, Byokra, and Shengzi, having studied it for cultural reasons. I could barely read it, but I knew the steel's language was at least several thousand years old. Just a warning left by a previous cultivator for future generations. I felt somewhat deflated. I had expected some grand secret, but it was just an ordinary warning. Even that seemed to imply more of a mental preparation before entering the Ascension Gate than a special warning. I guess I don't need to worry about that. Disappointed, I decided to return to my original location. Training here wasn't bad, but the distant thunderclouds and spatial rifts made it a challenging environment for concentration. After another 10 nights, I returned to the cave where my companions and I had first settled. For now, I'll try to regain the cultivation I achieved in my past life as quickly as possible. Having learned the Understanding Before Breakthrough training method, I should be able to quickly recover my cultivation with the high spiritual energy density of Ascension Path. I sat down and began to cultivate. About 10 years passed. I opened the 72 earthly Sha meridians. I condensed the 36 heavenly gang spiritual natures. I adapted the 12 earthly branches spiritual types to my meridians. I imbued the 10 heavenly stems diagram spiritual changes. I unified the 108 spiritual meridians and 60 spiritual natures with the 9 palaces one origin principle. I completed all the meridians according to the 8 trigrams. Rumble. I felt the full activation and integration of the major spiritual meridians throughout my body. Using the earth-dwelling method and the 5 surpassing paths to cultivation, I formed a hand seal. Earth court, rumble, mud walls rose around me, and a mud house was constructed. I stepped out of the mud house, tested various supernatural powers and spells, and then took a deep breath. 10th year of my return. In just over 10 years, I reached the Kai refining 7th star, a cultivation that took me over 50 years in my past life. And what remained was the 7 stars ritual. I had to choose 7 stars among the 28 celestial stars and ask for the descent of heaven and earth spiritual energy. I knew all the methods and procedures for performing the ritual. I also knew how to build an altar. I understood how to calculate the auspicious timing and observe the stars. All that was left was for the heavens to grant permission in this life. Definitely, I will surpass this stage. After reaching Kai refining 7th star, I observed the constellations, calculated the timing, and chose a date for the ritual. This day, at this time, will be suitable for the ritual. I gazed at the sky. Based on my observation and sensing of spiritual energy, the weather was predicted to be clear for the next 10 nights. The ritual was 2 days away. Would the heavens grant me permission? I used the earth-dwelling method and the 5 surpassing paths to cultivation to gather earth and stone, building an altar and decorating it with spiritual herbs and fruits from the vicinity. And then the date of the ritual arrived. The sun sets, and the stars gather, a beautiful starry sky. But knowing the cruelty hidden in this beautiful sky, I did not lose my vigilance as I commenced the ritual. The ritual begins. I, Seo Yunhyan, a mortal who seeks the path of immortal cultivation, wearing simple clothes and ascending the star ritual altar. I examine the terrain and wish to honor the 7 stars of the Eastern Jie, East Azure, constellation. I offer to the 28 celestial stars and 6 dings, and 6 Jias of heaven and earth, expanding each direction. For the Eastern Jie, the spirit of the Azure Dragon corresponds to the stars of horn, neck, root, room, heart, tail, and winnowing basket, forming the image of azure respect and planting it. For the Southern Bingding, the spirit of the red vermilion corresponds to the stars of well, ghost, willow, star, extended net, wing, and chariot, forming the image of yang respect and planting it. For the Western Zhengzin, the spirit of the white tiger corresponds to the stars of legs, bond, stomach, hairy head, net, beak, triple star, forming the image of white respect and planting it. For the Northern Rengui, the spirit of the black turtle corresponds to the stars of ladle, ox, girl, emptiness, rooftop, chamber, wall, forming the image of yin respect and planting it. For the Central Wujai, the spirit of the yellow emperor arranges the yellow spirit flag, according to the order of the 5 directions, and planting it. After Seo Yunhyan has trimmed his nails and disheveled his hair, he humbly offers this prayer. Holding a piece of bark inscribed with ritual text in my right hand and a stone incense burner in my left, I recite the ritual text towards the celestial constellations. I select the constellations that suit me from the 4 and address the 7 stars. As a mortal, Seo Yunhyan, wishing to walk the path of immortal cultivation, I appeal to the 7 stars of the Azure Respect constellation, horn, neck, root, room, heart, tail, and winnowing basket, to graciously consider this. The 7 stars governing the Eastern Jie's fate, the stars of horn, neck, root, room, heart, tail, and winnowing basket. I pray to these 7 stars performing the ritual dance. I draw a stone sword representing the constellation and perform a sword dance symbolizing the 7 celestial stars, elevating the spiritual energy of the altar. Grant this humble star the opportunity. I humbly beseech thee, heavens above, bestow upon me the spiritual essence of heaven and earth. Heavens above, grant me strength. As I continued my ritual dance, I looked up at the sky and stretched out my arms. Heavens above, the sky was covered in dark clouds, despite my observation of spiritual energy predicting clear weather. Heavens above, the starlight's energy was cut off. Continuous communication with the stars was essential, but as the stars' spiritual energy was cut off naturally, the energy of the altar also faded. The ritual ended just like that. Ha 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 ha. Yes, I expected this. I never thought the heavens would easily grant me power. It was the same in my past life, and perhaps it will be the same in the future, but I will not give up. I can't give up for my life to reach even higher and to not make my master's efforts meaningless. Heavens above, no matter how proudly you stand in my way, I will definitely somehow reach that place. Boom! I rolled my feet, collapsing the altar, and quietly glared at the sky. The dark clouds on that day, the first ritual after my return, was unusually dark. The timing for the ritual came around roughly once every fortnight. I consistently refined the ritual implements, continuously offering rituals to the heavens every half-month. As a mortal, Seo Yunhyan, wishing to walk the path of immortal cultivation, I appealed to the 7 stars of the Azure Respect constellation, horn, neck, root, room, heart, tail, and winnowing basket, to graciously consider this. Seo Yunhyan, wishing to walk the path of immortal cultivation. I appeal to the 7 stars of the Yin Respect constellation, ladle, ox, girl, emptiness, rooftop, chambered, wall, to graciously to walk the path of immortal cultivation. I appeal to the 7 stars of the white respect constellation. Legs, bond, stomach, hairy head, net, beak, triple star, 2. Walk the path. I appeal to the 7 stars of the yang respect constellation. Well, ghost, willow, star, extended net, wing, and chariot. Rotating through the 28 celestial stars and their 4 constellations, I earnestly entreated different constellations with every favorable opportunity. O constellation of Eastern Jieyi, please accept me. O constellation of Southern Bingding, please permit me. O constellation of Western Jiangxin, please look upon me. O constellation of Northern Rengui, please raise me. O stars, this human pleads to you, please, please. I performed the rituals with every return of the moon's cycle again and again, 24 times in a year. Occasionally, I held additional rituals during special auspicious times, totaling 36 attempts in a year, and each time I failed repeatedly. The heavens kept pushing me away. 1 year passed, then 2, then 3, and as time went by, 10 years elapsed. 10 years. During that time, there were about 500 attempts. Combined with the 24 officially sanctioned auspicious times in a year and a few special occasions, I conducted 572 rituals, and all of them failed. Each time the heavens stood in my way. Heavens. As I watched yet another ritual collapse, I softly called out to the sky, "Please, give me strength." The sky was covered in dark clouds without any response. This was probably my 573rd failure. For over 10 years, in a place devoid of people, I cried out to the heavens again and again. My beard has grown bushy, and my clothes has completely worn out. Recently, I have been weaving grass into garments, not because I needed clothes in the absence of people, but to maintain a minimum of decorum for the rituals. They say that if the heart is sincere, the heavens will respond. But it seems the heavens of this world do not know such sayings. Did they truly have no response, even after a human devoted 10 years? I don't know. Lately, it all seemed futile. Buzz, whoosh, whoosh. I watched a stone sword I had carved for the rituals, controlled by dual-energy sword control, perform a dance in the air. So lonely. Loneliness. I hadn't known about it before. I had always spent time among people. Even when my hands bled from training, I at least had my master and Kim Young-hoon for company. But now, I have truly become alone. Watching the lonely sword dance performed by the flying sword, I suddenly grabbed another stone sword and infused it with sword energy. How about playing around for a while? Thinking of the flying sword as Kim Young-hoon, I rushed at it. The flying sword used the severing vein saber method, and I, the severing mountain swordsmanship, danced together all day long. For about a week, I completely lost myself dancing with the sword. Moving my body to exhaustion seemed to relieve some frustration in my mind. My swordsmanship became more natural, feeling more advanced than before. The flying sword, imbued with mountain wind, shot at me quickly. I grabbed another sword and deflected it with secluded valley, then counterattacked the imaginary opponent with bouldered cliff and strange stone. Now my skill in controlling the sword have improved so much that it felt as if the sword floating in the air was not controlled. It seemed as if the invisible Kim Young-hoon was holding the sword and swinging it at me. Kim Hyung. How is my skill? Buzz, whoosh. The flying sword charged at me, aiming at my feet with Dragon's Mound. I adopted transcending peaks and then countered from the lower position with echoing valley. But the flying sword, having no one actually holding it, didn't suffer much damage. Is it so? Am I still inadequate? But haven't I improved a lot? Kim Young-hoon, holding the flying sword, sighed, commenting and lecturing on my posture. Thank you for being a conversation partner. After talking with Kim Young-hoon, I examined my swordplay, corrected the points he mentioned, and swung my sword again. It certainly seems a bit better. I see. Using my intent in this way seems more helpful. Kim Young-hoon clicked his tongue and pointed out my internal energy and intent use again. I kept refining my technique as he advised, progressing forward. Thank you, Kim Hyung. Kim Young-hoon smiled and nodded at me. Then he said that chatting was unnecessary during a martial arts match, grabbed his sword again and lunged at me. Ha ha ha, let's have fun. I laughed heartily and clashed with Kim Young-hoon. Several days passed. That day, too, I unconsciously calculated the celestial movements, prepared the ritual altar in advance and checked the ritual tools, and I received martial arts guidance from Kim Young-hoon. Wait, Kim Hyung, what's wrong with my stance? Kim Young-hoon sighed in frustration and demonstrated his martial arts skill in front of me. After watching his demonstration for a while, I still couldn't figure it out. I really don't understand, let's just spar. Kim Young-hoon grinned, took up his sword, and charged at me. I too danced with the sword and clashed with him. But did Kim Hyung originally use a sword? His main weapon was a saber, wasn't it? Suddenly, that thought occurred to me. To make it more fun to play with Kim Young-hoon, I refined a rock into a stone saber using a spell. Kim Young-hoon examined the saber, seemed pleased with it, and then attacked me with Mountain Bird. Yes, indeed, it's more enjoyable to spar with Kim Hyung using a saber. We danced with our sword and saber again and again. I calculated the auspicious times for rituals and conducted them when the time was right. Invariably, I failed again. I destroyed the failed ritual altars with Kim Young-hoon and repeated the martial arts, sparring hundreds of times. Days and nights passed like that. One day, while sparring with Kim Young-hoon, we moved far from the original cave, not towards the Ascension Gate, but in the opposite direction. That is, the direction from which Jin Byuk-ho, White Bone Ghost Devil, and Sir Chang-ho had come from. Come to think of it, Kim Hyung, if we keep going in that direction, will we reach places like Byokra and Yongnuo that we know of? Since we don't know how it's connected to the geography we're familiar with an ascension path. Kim Young-hoon, swinging his saber at me, suggested that we keep going in that direction to find out. Ha ha, great. Let's keep going and have a blast. Once again, his saber clashed with my sword. About 2 months later, Kim Young-hoon and I finally reached the end of Ascension Path. I was speechless at the sight. Kim Young-hoon also seemed stunned, holding his saber loosely and just staring at the end of Ascension Path. Now I understand why we never knew the direct passage to Ascension Path from Chungmun Clan's library in my previous life. I chuckled and walked towards the edge of Ascension Path. Ascension Path was floating in the sky, a giant landmass imbued with spiritual energy, floating above the sky. Below us, the ground was a dim expanse. At the same time, I realized where Ascension Path was located. The heaven-treading desert. What was visible below was undoubtedly an endless desert. As far as I knew, the only desert like that was the heaven-treading desert. Why the desert was named heaven-treading? The name heaven-treading desert was a topic of debate among scholars from Yongnuo and Byokra. Some said it was named heaven-treading because of a legend that it was connected to the sky. Others said it was because many who crossed the endless sands of the desert died and ascended to heaven. Some even thought heaven-treading was a transliteration of a word from distant eastern desert countries. But now I clearly understand the reason. Ascension Path and the Ascension Gate, a place with an entrance to ascend to the heavens. It seemed that numerous cultivators had named it heaven-treading, treading on heaven. Amazing, Kim Hyung. I looked at Kim Young-hoon, wanting to express my feelings, but was startled to see him. Kim Young-hoon's figure had become blurry. No, it cannot be. Ha ha ha. I took my sword and charged at the blurred figure of Kim Young-hoon. As I collided with the indistinct shadow, we exchanged a few blows. I found a gap in the shadow's defense and managed to split it in half with my sword, killing it. And so the shadow was cut in half and died. Thud. The saber that the shadow had been holding. No, the saber that I had been controlling all by myself fell from the air. That's right, Kim Young-hoon. I sent him off alone 23 years ago. It was then that I remembered. For about 2.5 years now, I have been half out of my mind. Seeing the breathtaking and majestic sight that Ascension Path was floating in the sky, I momentarily regained clarity and came to my senses. Hee. Ha 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 ha. I collapsed on the spot, giggling and then bursting into laughter. According to the calculations I made in my semi-insane state, tonight would be the day when the time for the ritual would come again. However, I had neither set up an altar nor prepared or brought any ritual implements. Just sitting there, I laughed for a while and then cried. The stars began to rise. Heavens above, heavens above, heavens above. Without performing the ritual, I just called out to the stars. How much longer? How much longer must I stay in this place? Please send me to the next star. Please prevent me from going more insane. Heavens above. Translator notes. Dangxian Hyang will be officially termed as Ascension. Path. Chapter 52. Heavens above 2. The night passed and dawn broke. Then I witnessed something extraordinary. Whoosh, the stone saber I had made for the imaginary Kim Young-hoon, which I had split in half, began to float in the air. A faint figure started to reappear. The figure I had split in two. Each half of the figure, now holding the upper and lower parts of the saber, began to grow new bodies on their opposite sides. Wriggle, new bodies fully formed, and the reality of the two Kim Young-hoons became clear again. This time as well they were Kim Young-hoon. The two Kim Young-hoons, each holding a saber, aimed at me. Their transparent eyes asked me to stop my futile thoughts and engage in a duel. Heh. I felt saliva dripping from my mouth. My eyes bloodshot, I chuckled and stood up shakily, holding the stone sword. Ha. I rushed towards the two Kim Young-hoons. Crazy or not, what did it matter? Yes, let's just play and think later. It was another 6 months before I managed to defeat the two Kim Young-hoons. I roamed around, engaging in battles with them. Finally, I elevated my severing mountain swordsmanship to the extreme and succeeded in cutting down both Kim Young-hoons simultaneously. There lay the bisected corpses of the two Kim Young-hoons, still smiling eerily. Aren't you resentful that I've cut you down? Despite being bisected, the two Kim Young-hoons shook their heads. Seemingly, they were happy to see my martial arts improve. From the bisected bodies of the two Kim Young-hoons, new bodies began to sprout again. Wriggle. Now the two Kim Young-hoons have become 4. Each of them was armed and surrounded me. The fight was about to get even tougher. All right, let's do this. Months passed again. Whenever the time was right, I held rituals towards the heavens, and each time they failed, I, along with the now 6 Kim Young-hoons, would demolish the altar. Why? I screamed towards the heavens, smashing the altar with the Kim Young-hoons. Why won't you grant me permission? Heavens? Why still? If this much sincerity isn't enough, then what more do you want from me? Boom! The 6th Kim Young-hoon swung his saber, shattering the last piece of the altar. I thanked him and sat down, exhausted. Kim Hyung, I spoke to the Kim Young-hoons. I know. I've lost my mind right now, but in a way, I'm both insane and rational. The repeated failures and the loneliness of not being able to converse had led to these illusions. I pondered over my feelings and formed a hypothesis about the Kim Young-hoons in front of me. You all are the Kim Young-hoons I remember from my past lives, aren't you? At my words, all 6 Kim Young-hoons nodded. Excluding the Kim Young-hoon from my first life without regression and this current cycle, they were the 6 Kim Young-hoons from the 6 cycles of regressions. The ones I remembered and longed for. I'm sorry for dragging the departed into my delusions. They smiled wryly, saying it's just my imagination, what does it matter? I chuckled and grasped my sword. I'm always grateful for playing with me. Blink, I closed and opened my eyes. Their figures vanished, leaving 6 floating stone sabers. Blinking again, they transformed back into 6 Kim Young-hoons. 7 years passed. Heavens, grant me strength. Heavens, please accept me. Whoosh, once again, I clenched my teeth at the sight of the obstructing dark clouds. Still, I am not granted permission by the heavens. It was different from when I transitioned from first straight to the peak. Back then, though there was an indescribable huge wall blocking me, I could feel the existence beyond that wall and devoted my life to breaking through. But now it's not a huge wall. It's like being thrown alone into an endless space. There's no wall, nothing at all. I can't even see the next realm. When will the heavens permit me? There's no promise, just me clinging to the cold and lofty mercy of the heavens, waiting for the next realm. I must try, crack. My fingers, imbued with Gang Kai, gripped the stone altar made by the earth-dwelling method, leaving imprints. Yes, I must try, no matter how much the heavens ignore me, even if I am just a struggling bug, until they accept me. I must keep enduring. Yes, if not today, then tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, then the day after, until they accept me. I will keep trying over and over. Heavens above, I am waiting. Boom, I stamped my foot, the altar crumbled. Beside me, 6 Kim Young-hoons, each performing their own ritual dance, assisted me as we furiously pounded the altar together. I will definitely reach you. Swoosh at some point. I was able to overcome the 6 Kim Young-hoons. The heavens would still not permit me. All I did was swing around pieces of stone. Even that was just a figment of my imagination. Were the Kim Young-hoons before me the real ones? No, they weren't. If they were the real Kim Young-hoons, they would have shot a single gang sphere and blown me away. What I was fighting were just Kim Young-hoons supported by my imagination. But I have now overcome all the Kim Young-hoons I have longed for. Now, whom do I have to fight? Who do I have to compete with to express this torment? That's when it happened. Wriggle, wriggle. The illusions of the 6 Kim Young-hoons I had overcome. Their corpses began to squirm. And from those wriggling of corpses, something began to grow. It was the leader of the Shadow Guards and its members. The Shadow Guards grew from Kim Young-hoon's corpses, and the 6 Kim Young-hoons squirmed and grew again. Now, along with the 6 Kim Young-hoons, the Shadow Guards have appeared. Haha, not bad. The combined attack of masters is better the more there are. Drooling from my mouth, I shouted. Come at me. All of you come at me. Fine, I will make the weapons for you. I formed a hand seal, made stone weapons for the Shadow Guards and Kim Young-hoons, infused them with Gang Kai and threw them. They took my weapons and all rushed at me. Every time I fought, I felt a tingling pleasure in my head, blowing away the pain and despair of my ritual failures. Ha ha ha, it's so fun, so very fun, I am enjoying this. My intent was somehow a dark blue hue, but I didn't care and shouted. Great! 2 years passed, 32 years since regression. 22 years since the start of the 7 Stars ritual. That day, I was drooling from my mouth, taking the combined attack of several members of the Shadow Guards and several peak masters I had met, and the combined attacks of the Kim Young-hoon group. We were fighting, crossing a mountain in the sky. Suddenly, while fending off the extreme attack of the Shadow Guard leader, I noticed something different down below. That is... I felt my eyes widen, gestured to the people playing with me, and went down. It was a stone building, a trace of civilization. I hurriedly ran to the stone building. This place is... Inside the stone building, there was no sign of life. At most, some spiritual herbs or poisonous plants growing in various places and low-level spiritual beasts that came together to bare their teeth at me. But such creatures, seeing the Shadow Guards and peak masters of the great sects and the group of Kim Young-hoons following me, were surprised and fled with wide eyes. Strange. These are supposed to be visible only to me because I've lost my mind. Why are those creatures running away? After thinking for a while, I realized that many weapons floating in the air following me would be a terrifying sight. Well, good. Anyway, this building is... The building seemed to be made in a style used thousands of years ago. Inside, there wasn't much to see. It's not made for people to live in. It was too cramped for that. This wasn't so much a building as... It feels like a shrine. I looked at the altar or something similar and became certain of my thoughts. At the top of the altar, there was a large square indentation, as if something had been placed there before. An ancestral tablet or some kind of stele. Wait, a stele! I came out of the building and looked at it hastily. I hadn't noticed because I rushed in, but this building didn't just seem neglected due to age. Around it were stones that seemed like remnants of the stone building, and the bottom part of the building was ripped out, and the terrain around the stone building. It was as if a very powerful person had plucked this stone building from its original place and thrown it here. The terrain around the stone building was deeply gouged on one side, as if thrown and leaving a mark on the land. I looked in the direction the gouge pointed. It was towards the Ascension Gate. The indentation on the altar inside the building. Its size is exactly the same as the steel that floated above the Ascension Gate. Perhaps this stone building was originally erected where the Ascension Gate was, and one of the heavenly being cultivators had plucked the building and thrown it here for some reason. Is there a hidden secret? While searching near the stone building, I found something delightful. This is a fragment of a stone with oracle bone script written on it. It was too ancient for me to identify correctly, but from what I know, it seemed to mean thunder. I searched around the fragment with the character for thunder, but found nothing more. I'm curious now. Is there some hidden secret in this place? What does this oracle bone script of thunder mean? Is it related to the thunderclouds near the Ascension Gate? It's getting interesting. As I came up with various hypotheses and my mind cleared, the many figures around me became transparent. Only numerous stone weapons floated in the air. Shall I look for more of these similar buildings? With that intention, I wandered around the island, looking carefully. The size of Ascension Path was immense, as big as combining several cities. It seemed to be about the size of South Korea. At the center of the island was the Ascension Gate, and this place was shaped like a circular land floating in the air around the gate. But despite my thorough search, I couldn't find any more buildings like the stone building. It's hard to find out more without further clues. I sighed and went near the Ascension Gate for the first time in a while. The gate was closed due to the time past, but the spatial rifts and thunderclouds around it remained. But I saw something I hadn't noticed before: traces of the stone building near the Ascension Gate. Stones that looked of the same material as the stone building were scattered nearby. It seemed like the base of the stone building. I examined the stones, then went back to where the stone building was located. The direction the stone building flew from the Ascension Gate was north. I suddenly realized that the size of the stone building and the part near the Ascension Gate, which seemed to be its base, didn't match. The base part is almost 10 times bigger. This meant the original stone building was much larger. But why was only this stone building left here? I thought about whether the remnants of the stones had weathered and crumbled, but there weren't many such remnants nearby. Then, there was a larger stone building when the cultivator blew up the building. When they ripped and threw the building, only this part fell here and the rest further north fell outside the area. I ran to the northern edge, looking down at the desert below. Tusk, all sand. Maybe it was buried under the sand. The stone, having touched it a few times, was very sturdy and not easily damaged. I might have to dig under the sand nearby later. Or since I've mastered earth spells, I could dig underground. Anyway, I'll investigate later. I decided such and looked up at the sky. Despite my sudden doubts and curiosity, I haven't paid much attention. But now I need to perform the ritual again. How long must this continue? Suddenly, the urge to give everything up overwhelmed me. How long must I keep doing this? Perhaps I was doing something foolish. After all, maybe the heavens have no intention of permitting me, no matter what I did or do. Am I just working in vain? Am I foolishly lingering in this place for nothing? Master. I clenched my teeth. Boom, I stomped my foot, and the earth rose up, forming an altar. As you said, Master, sincerity can reach the heavens. I will give it my all. Not yet. I can't give up yet. Even if I do give up, it will be after I've dedicated this entire life to trying. Because there have been too many who have pushed me forward in my many lives. Many figures surrounded me. Some held weapons. Others didn't. There were Kim Young-hoons, subordinates from my time as the Woolen Alliance chief advisor, from the time of the Palace of Heavenly Demons, the Shadow Guards, and my disciples, and my master. Only then did I realize I haven't gone mad, I wasn't crazy. I was just longing for them so much that I called them to me. The many people in my memory were merely projected before my eyes according to my will. I will not give up. I said, looking at everyone, looking at the Kim Young-hoons, looking at my disciples, looking at my master. For the sake of not forgetting your help, I gathered the ritual utensils, adorned the altar, and prepared for this night's ritual. Heavens above, grant me strength. Allow me, I cried out, looking at the sky filled with dark clouds, but the heavens remained silent. Without any response, just silently looking down at me. It was a failure again, but I did not give up. Heavens above, grant me strength. Heavens above, allow me. I earnestly prayed, performing and praying through the ritual over and over. The heavens did not look at me, but now I also stopped looking at the heavens. Instead, each time I performed the ritual, I looked at the numerous figures around me, those who had pushed me forward, the many connections who had supported and sustained me. Even if I can't meet them anymore, they are with me in my heart. Heavens above, I will not give up. Because I am not alone, from a certain point, I stopped smashing the altar in anger after the ritual ended. Instead, I focused on gathering stones to build the altar higher and stronger. My altar grew taller. Eventually, it would reach the sky. As time passed, the figures surrounding me became more and more distinct. As the tower grew taller and stronger, the 6 Kim Young-hoons who fought with me, the Shadow Guards, several Peak Masters, and my disciples. Over 500 disciples, the Shadow Guards, Kim Young-hoons, elders and protectors of various great sects. The loyalists I fought with in the Jin clan, they all came out with weapons and sparred with me. At first, it was overwhelming, but after a few years, I was equally fighting against them all. As my skills improved, the figures participating in my sparring increased. Most were martial artists wielding weapons, but also the petty bandits, water bandits, and unorthodox sect martial artists I had captured. Even the first-rate masters I had sparred with, the number almost reached 2,000 as the range expanded. 35 years into regression. 25 years since starting the 7 Stars ritual. How many thousands of times have I failed the ritual? I can't even remember. But I sense that I will not be broken. I am not alone. How can I be alone with so many accompanying me? Heavens above, look. Humans cannot reach the heavens alone, but no human is ever completely alone. Within the many connections and relationships inside us, humans are born and live. Heavens above, you may not look at me, but I am not composed of just myself. Therefore, the heavens cannot ignore us. I now ascend the giant altar, almost as tall as a 4-story building. Thousands of weapons float in the air below the altar. When I blink, the weapons are all held by numerous figures. Besides those figures holding weapons, thousands more without weapons look at me. Some might call me a madman who creates imaginary figures in his madness. From that perspective, I am indeed a madman. But from the perspective of longing for people, am I really mad? Every human is born, grows, and dies within humanity. People inevitably seek others. Is it madness for people to crave others? For people to crave life? For people to yearn for higher places for that? Heavens above, I cannot give up now. I murmured, looking at the countless figures. I know. They are all illusions created by my loneliness, longing, and yearning. But if I can only break free from the cycle of regression and fate, I can find them all again, retrieving my life as it was. And for that, I must ascend higher. As I ascend the altar, I shout towards the heavens. Heavens above, look, I will not give up, I cannot give up. So grant me strength, so allow me. The ritual began. Translator notes, our Yun Hyan needs a break. Also, please don't post spoilers unless asked for, even if it is censored. Thank you. Chapter 53. Heavens above 3. Am I truly mad? The numerous hopeful gazes looking up at me from below felt so vivid. The dark clouds in the sky still haven't cleared, but I wasn't in pain or disappointed that the ritual failed. My master climbed up to the altar and patted my shoulder. Let's try again next time, he said. The one who believed in me again and again. I nodded and smiled back at him. Even if they are the delusions of a madman, the numerous eyes gazing up at me from below the altar seem to me like the stars in the sky. I haven't met the stars in the sky, but I have successfully looked back at the stars on the ground with my own strength. I will try once more. My master beside me calculated the celestial changes and timings again, and I recalculated the timings and performed the ritual again. The heavens blocked me many times, but I also challenged it many times. At one moment, the Kim Young-hoons took their sabers and flew towards the heavens, as if to open the sky for me. But still, the sky with clouds are high. After flying a certain distance, The energy in the sword control was exhausted, and they fell back to the ground. I couldn't directly ascend to the sky during the ritual. If the ritualier leaves the altar, the ritual would immediately stop. Sometimes, in a fit of passion, I asked the numerous figures for help, sending thousands of sword controls towards the sky. But, as before reaching the sky, the energy was exhausted and the weapons fell. After several more attempts, I tried concentrating the gang kai of thousands into a single weapon and sent it flying. It could reach the sky, but by the time it reached the clouds, its energy was so depleted it had no more power than ordinary sword gang. With that level of power, it did no more than slightly shake the massive dark clouds. The shaken clouds attracted even more clouds, thickening and leading to another failure. Failure, failure, failure. But I smiled. The continuous repetition of failure. But based on those failures, I was constantly moving one step higher. My altar grew taller day by day and more figures became tangible. Heavens above, I will not give up. Heavens above, grant me strength. Permit me. Now, from the altar, 9 floors high, I glared at the sky through the dark clouds. The 36th year, I gradually got better at sending sword control further. Thanks to that, when I sent the sword gang filled with energy towards the sky, the tremor became slightly larger than before. Yet, still not enough to clear those stubborn clouds. I smiled, step by step like this. I will gradually get closer to the heavens. The 37th year, I realized something had changed in my dragon vein kai method. I have successfully materialized 5,000 figures and was infusing them with gang kai. I remembered that it's nonsensical to handle such tremendous internal energy with typical martial arts internal energy methods. What's going on? Why? I focused on my dragon vein kai method for a while and noticed a faint pressure and suction forming at the center of my dantian. The pressure and suction further compressed my internal energy, increasing its total amount. I realized this phenomenon was vaguely similar to what is described in the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts. That's right. I was now entering the peak of 5 energies converging to the origin. 2 lifetimes dedicated, and only now am I reaching this point. Kim Young-hoon would have already reached the ultimate pinnacle with the record of surpassing path and martial arts by now. Maybe he even found a clue beyond the ultimate pinnacle, but I didn't mind. Why? For some reason, Kim Young-hoon no longer seemed so unreachable. The sky didn't seem so high either. Maybe. I suddenly looked at the altar I had built. It was now 15 floors tall, about 45 meters. An immense height. I slowly climbed the altar and unfolded today's ritual. Whoosh, dark clouds rolled in again. But this time I shot my highly compressed gang kai towards the sky. It seemed to shake the sky a bit more. Of course, the sky still didn't show any gaps. I grinned, showing my teeth. Heavens above. Do you see? This insignificant bug is starting to shake the heavens. Will you truly not allow me? Heavens above, look carefully, for one day you will have to allow me. I smiled at my master, who was happy to see the tremor in the sky. Time passed again. I reflected on my approach to sword control. With a clearer mind, I observed the figures gathered around me. How can I send gang kai even further? There was a time when I was pleased thinking the figures had materialized. But upon sober reflection, it wasn't that the figures materialized. Rather, my skill with sword control had improved through incessant practice, increasing the number I could handle. Yet, despite the increase in numbers and technique, there was a limit to how far I could send sword control. Recently, with the pressure forming at the center of my dantian, my internal energy has increased, pushing the limits slightly further. But that was about it. The fundamental issue was that beyond a certain distance, controlling energy became difficult, and the consumption of internal energy increased. I asked the figures around me, "How can I send you further away from me?" I questioned Kim Young-hoon. Kim Hyung, you must know. How can I send sword control even further? What is the principle behind sending your gang kai so far? Kim Young-hoon just smiled without answering. I know it too. This Kim Young-hoon is just my imagination, incapable of answering what I don't know. Therefore, I ponder alone endlessly. How should I do it? How can I send my power all the way to the heavens? I calculate the times while pondering how to send sword control further. Time passed, and my technique improved, but the fundamental problem remained unsolved. However, the figures gradually became more tangible and clear. Suddenly, I had this thought. Why did the figures in my mind materialize? It's because I long for them. Then, are these now materialized figures fake? They are my delusions. If everything is my delusion, are these figures in vain? They are not in vain. Empowered by delusions and madness, I've reached the peak of 5 energies converging to the origin. Why did the delusions affect reality? It's not that the delusions affected reality. I spoke to myself in a question-and-answer format. These figures are all connections I've had. My dear ones, therefore it's my connections that have had an impact. If my connections have moved to another timeline, aren't they as good as non-existent? It's different. Even if the connections have disappeared, I remember what everyone left behind. Everyone is connected here. Why are they connected inside you? That's because I lift my head, the one I was conversing with met my eyes. They make up who I am. I had thought of this before. Humans are not formed alone. Humans emerge, grow, and eventually die within the framework of us. Therefore, I am not just made up of myself. All the phantoms I had witnessed up to now were, in fact, myself. Russell? Numerous figures were absorbed into the being before me who became distinctly visible. It was me. Looking at myself, I smiled. If everything I thought was separate was actually a part of me, wouldn't my martial arts be the same? Right. I have been lost in madness and delusion, reminiscing about many people from my past. Yet they were all just aspects that constituted me. If the parts that make up me had been maneuvering sword control, couldn't I, as my complete self, also maneuver sword control? Have you gained enlightenment? Yes. It's not a split personality, is it? Haha, it seems not. Then let's proceed. I look at the me before me, smiling, and extend my hand. Gang Kai burst forth from my hand. The me extends both hands. The Gang Kai emitted from my hand began to transform within his hands. Simultaneously, I could see the face of the me before me. Numerous faces passed across the face of the me. Among them were those I killed, those I hated, those I longed for, and those I cherished dearly. There were enemies, subordinates, comrades, disciples, and also my master. I recall a night when the numerous gazes upon me felt like starlight. All those countless stars are within me. The stars within me converge in my hand. A whirlpool of Gang Kai converge into a single point, creating a star more beautiful than anything else in me's hand. The me hands that star to myself who was watching. I smile and accept the star. Then the me is absorbed into the star. Finally, I understood what Kim Young-hoon meant when he said there was life within the sphere. Beyond inputting actions like sword control. Finally, infusing oneself into it. That is, ultimate pinnacle. Reaching the top of the pinnacle to create the ultimate pinnacle realm. Both my past and present lives. Only after dedicating 2 entire lifetimes do I step into this realm, the 40th year of my regression. After about a century, finally, I stand up from my place. Time is approaching again. The sun sets and the stars rise. I look at the altar I have built. The altar is 60 floors tall. It's an altar built over several decades. Wasn't it time to reach the heavens? Holding a star in my hand, I slowly climb the altar. It is fully night, and it is time to begin the ritual. I, Seo Yoon-hyun, a mortal who seeks the path of immortal cultivation, wearing simple clothes and ascending the 7 stars ritual altar. I examine the terrain and wish to honor the 7 stars of the Eastern Jie constellation. I offer to the 28 celestial stars and 6 dings, and 6 Jias of heaven and earth, expanding each direction. For the Eastern Jie, the spirit of the azure dragon, corresponds to the stars of horn, neck, root, room, heart, tail, and winnowing basket, forming the image of azure respect and planting it. For the southern Bing-ding, the spirit of the red vermilion corresponds to the stars of well, ghost, willow, star, extended net, wing, and chariot, forming the image of yang respect and planting it. For the western Zhengzin, The spirit of the white tiger corresponds to the stars of legs, bond, stomach, hairy head, net, beak, triple star, forming the image of white respect and planting it. For the northern Rengui, the spirit of the black turtle corresponds to the stars of ladle, ox, girl, emptiness, rooftop, chamber, wall, forming the image of yin respect and planting it. For the central Wujai, the god of the yellow emperor arranges the yellow spirit flag, according to the order of the 5 directions, and planting it. After Seo Yunhyan has trimmed his nails and disheveled his hair, he humbly offers this prayer. I recite the ritual text towards the celestial constellations. As a mortal, Seo Yunhyan, wishing to walk the path of immortal cultivation, I appeal to the 7 stars of the Azure Respect constellation, horn, neck, root, room, heart, tail, and winnowing basket to graciously consider this. I gather the spiritual energy of the altar and raise the star. Grant this small star an opportunity. Thus, I pray, heavens above, grant me the spiritual essence of heaven and earth. Heavens above, bestow upon me your strength. Thunder rumbles ominously. As expected, the heavens are covered with dark clouds. I stretch my arms towards the sky. The star that I infused with my essence, a creation of human endeavor, began to ascend towards the heavens. The energy of the star is not excessively consumed. For within it, I had already embedded another aspect of myself. Me, perfectly controlling the energy, brings the consumption rate to near 0. The star slowly ascends to the heavens and finally touches the clouds. Heavens above, heavens above, heavens above, heavens above. I call out time and time again, heavens above, towards that vast darkness, release your power to me. With that shout, light burst forth, the star explodes, piercing through the heavens. The clouds tear apart in a circle, and starlight from above begin to descend. Sincerity moves the heavens. The heavens are not moved. They simply exist. Then, like a worm tirelessly squirming, I must reach them. The gang sphere I created exploded, and a stream of light surged forth. Within it, the aspect of myself that I had infused, all the connections from my past lives looked down at me from the heavens. Kim Young-hoons from my past lives, my disciples, my master, they all smile at me from the heavens. Stretching both my arms towards the heavens, I embrace the spiritual essence of heaven and earth falling upon me. This moment, practiced and envisioned countless times, I would not let slip away. I activate my meridians to absorb the spiritual essence of heaven and earth, looking up towards the heavens. Heavens above, I have won. Thus, I completed the 7 stars ritual and successfully advanced from Kai refining 7th star to the 8th star. Translator notes, let's all give a round of applause to our Regressor CEO. For anyone confused about the sudden website change, go here. Announcement. Notice. Chapter 54. Heavenly Thunder 1. Crackling, thundering. From the dark clouds in the sky, a blue light flashed, followed by the sound of thunder. Somehow, if the sky also had consciousness, I thought its color would be fiery red. It seems as if the sky, angered, was challenging me who forcefully dispersed the clouds. Strike me if you can. I squeezed out Gang Kai and levitated it above my hand again. Dozens, hundreds, thousands of sword gangs gathered above my hand, forming a sword gang sphere. With a burst of light, another star appeared above my hand. Fortunately, the sky did not strike me with heavenly lightning. It just rumbled, as if deciding to observe for a while, dispersing the clouds. Could I block the lightning now? I smiled wryly at the thought, but it seemed impossible to stop lightning with a gang sphere. How could I block a force that strikes at the speed of light? The power contained in the gang sphere is sufficient, but the speed is lacking to block it. Well, anyway, I'll think about that later. I gazed at the gang sphere I had formed in front of me. In the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts, many parts that I didn't understand before now made sense. The trials and errors of Kim Hyung. Thanks to him pioneering the realm ahead, I could avoid groping in the dark with trial and error. For example, the gang sphere is not just a bomb to be thrown and explode. I sat cross-legged on the altar. closing my eyes and floating the gang sphere. Although the gang sphere seems powerful, it is just a brute mass of energy. That meant, with a deep breath, I could inhale it into my body. Of course, it was just reabsorbing my internal energy, so there would be no increase in cultivation, however. The pressure and suction that formed in the dantian. Now I understand why that suction occurred. It was a sign that I was approaching the ultimate pinnacle beyond the 5 energies converging to the origin. The gang sphere entered my body, settling in the dantian. I infused intent into it, so much so that I felt like I was condensing myself into a small bead. The dantian is the field of the mind, right? I condensed myself into the field of the mind, so it would be strange if there were no changes. The gang sphere in the dantian settled naturally at the center of pressure and suction. It took root, and I felt the pressure and suction increase many times over. Until now, my dantian was a mix of cultivated spiritual power and martial arts internal energy. But as the gang sphere exerted suction, the mixed internal energy was all drawn into the gang sphere. Simultaneously, the internal energy flowing through my meridians, along with spiritual power, separated and was drawn into the center of the gang sphere in the dantian. Ah, I felt it. The internal energy could enter the gang sphere as much as my consciousness allowed. It felt like the limit of internal energy in my dantian has expanded enormously. In the gang sphere in the dantian, the more I infused energy, the more it compressed endlessly. No, the gang sphere in the dantian can no longer be called just a gang sphere. It has become something different, mingled with the nature of the dantian. Yes, instead of a gang sphere, it would be better to call it an inner core. As the inner core formed, I realized something. Ah, that's it. Before, I felt apprehensive about the internal energy of the dragon vein Kai method flowing through the spiritual meridians. I didn't know why I felt that way then. But now, I understand. Humming. As I practiced the 5 surpassing paths to cultivation, I felt the spiritual energy entering much faster than before. The manipulation of spiritual power became much easier. It was like living in a smoggy city, and then coming to the countryside with clean air and breathing freely. So far, the cultivation method was hindered because the internal energy in the meridians was mixed with spiritual power in a previous life. There was a time when I thought Kim Young-hoon had a slightly better aptitude for cultivation than me. He reached the 2nd star of Kai refining faster than me, without a good teacher or much time. But thinking about it now, it wasn't that he had slightly better aptitude. He just didn't have a mixed energy like me, but stored his internal energy well in the inner core, preventing the internal energy from mixing turbulently. Inhaling the heaven and earth spiritual energy, I practiced my cultivation. It was much faster than before. At the same time, I utilized the hidden consciousness technique, a technique that compresses consciousness to speed up cultivation. With the efficiency of the hidden consciousness technique, it felt vastly superior compared to before. At this rate, isn't this efficiency comparable to that of a true spiritual root, instead of a mixed spiritual root? I was astonished by the tremendous efficiency of my cultivation. Of course, whether it is a true spiritual root or a mixed spiritual root, both are still considered inferior spiritual roots. But for me, who has a mixed spiritual root, such an increase in cultivation efficiency was incredibly significant. After checking the speed of my cultivation, I started to explore other effects of the inner core. Whoosh! Internal energy burst forth from the inner core. Simultaneously, the inner core became a central axis, forming a central origin. Unlike before, when I layered gang Kai in the void to form a gang sphere, it was now possible to create a gang sphere directly within the inner core. The gang sphere emitted light from my palm, scattering its radiance. The technique that Kim Young-hoon had shown before. If it weren't for the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts he left, I too would have struggled to transform the gang sphere into the inner core. I'm fortunate I could create the inner core immediately after resolving the trial and error. I clenched my fist again, absorbing the gang sphere. Then I stood up and flexed my feet. Boom! In an instant, I closed a distance of 5 meters. Thanks to the inner core providing a central origin, my internal energy efficiency has overwhelmingly improved. The strengthening of my body through internal energy reached extreme levels. My reaction speed, strength, and stamina have become incomparably stronger. Hop. I drew internal energy from my inner core and threw a punch. Crash. The internal energy, which previously could only weakly cover my sword, now displayed tremendous power when released from the inner core, shattering a boulder 1 meter in diameter. There is no waste in my internal energy use. My control over internal energy is now perfectly refined. Using the same techniques would now yield much stronger effects. I practiced various techniques several times while familiarizing myself with the inner core. Simultaneously, I pondered the difference between the golden core formed by core formation cultivators and the inner core I created. Does the golden core formed by core formation cultivators have the same effect as my inner core? After some thought, I concluded that they were entirely different, despite any superficial similarities. After all, the martial arts of the martial world are just degenerated versions of cultivation methods. Even if they look similar, they are never the same. When a core formation cultivator forms a golden core, their power can shatter mountains and split seas. While a Kai-building cultivator like Mackley Wangshan could destroy 1 or 2 pavilions with a whirlwind, a core formation cultivator with the same spell could lift and obliterate the entire palace with a whirlwind. Perhaps a core formation cultivator could level an entire imperial city in the time it takes to count from 1 to 10 with their eyes closed. In comparison, my inner core only improved the efficiency of martial arts and sped up the use of Gang Sphere. After experiencing the abilities of the inner core several more times, I checked the effects of completing the 7 stars ritual of Kai refining. Looking at the sky, I felt as if I could understand what celestial energy is. Accepting the heaven and earth spiritual essence, it seems I could interpret the will of the heavens. Of course, as a Kai refining cultivator, I couldn't understand much, but looking at the sky, I clearly knew how much life I have left. I also had an intuition to guess the weather for the next day by looking at the sky. My lifespan is always the same, so it's useless for me. And the weather can be calculated using the methods taught by my master. As my realm advances, my ability to read celestial energy will grow stronger. I felt that in the future, I will be able to vaguely glimpse fortunes and destinies. I felt confident that I could quickly master both the 6 harmonies, 8th star, and the 5 elements, 9th star of Kai refining. This confidence stemmed from my past life, when after getting stuck at the 7 stars ritual, I continuously previewed the realms beyond, almost fully grasping their meanings. Sigh. Settling down, I began practicing the 8th star of the earth surpassing path method. The influx of heaven and earth spiritual energy was incomparably faster than before. The internal energy that had been hindering my spiritual power usage were all absorbed into my inner core. With the hidden consciousness technique also in effect, my cultivation speed accelerated to the level of a true spiritual root cultivator. A year passed. With the addition of the dense spiritual energy from Ascension Path, it took me just over a year, with some trial and error, to advance to the 9th star of Kai refining. The 6 harmonies involved stimulating the consciousness in the 4 cardinal and 2 diagonal directions with spiritual energy, increasing the size of the consciousness and filling the entire spiritual meridians with spiritual power. With a complete understanding of this realm and consistent practice, I was able to reach it quickly. Now at the 9th star, the 5 elements from this stage, the properties of the basic cultivation methods began to be significantly emphasized. Previously, the basic spells were like controlling ordinary elements, but from the 9th star, one could exert proper mystical abilities. Hop! Boom! As I formed the hand seals and activated the mystical abilities recorded in the earth-surpassing path, a massive wall of earth rose before me. The 2-meter-high earthen wall, formed with spiritual power, was not only solid but also capable of shooting earthen projectiles, allowing both offense and defense. I could also ride on the collapsed wall as if sliding on the ground, build earthen houses, and freely use earth-moving techniques. The range of mystical abilities and techniques related to the earth element has significantly increased compared to before. From the stage of the 5 elements, the process of forming true words and hand seals for spells and mystical abilities matching the properties of the cultivation method is greatly simplified. Snap. Quickly forming basic hand seals, I completed an earth element spell that previously required a full set of true words and hand seals. Around this time, I decided to leave Ascension Path. For the 6 harmonies, dense spiritual energy might be necessary, but from the 5 elements onwards, it's not needed. I just needed enough spiritual energy of my own element. For that, it was better to enhance my earth attribute spiritual power on the ground below rather than on Ascension Path. I looked at the residence where I had stayed for over 41 years. Next to it was an altar, 60 meters in size, bearing my traces. After a brief look, I turned and headed towards the outskirts of Ascension Path. Below the Ascension Path, after packing basic food and water, I jumped down. Whoosh. The wind lashed at me. The ground approached rapidly. Suddenly, flash, I felt like I was passing through something, and feeling strange, I looked up to see that Ascension Path had vanished without a trace. Was it surrounded by some kind of barrier? After all, the heaven-treading desert was frequently traversed even by mortals. If such an enormous floating island existed, it would surely be well known. Unable to hide my amazement, I drew a gang sphere from my palm and shot it into the sky. Flash, boom. The gang sphere was suddenly blocked by the void and crumbled away. It seems easy to leave from the inside, but hard to enter from the outside. Anyway, I had finished what I needed to do on Ascension Path, so it didn't matter. The desert ground drew nearer. Reading the wind's course, I kicked the void. Boom. Boom, thanks to the inner core, even though I used less internal energy, void stepping showed much greater efficacy. As I decelerated rapidly and the sandy floor neared, I landed on the ground almost as if stepping down stairs. Thud, swoosh. Sand scattered all around. I formed a hand seal using earth attribute spiritual power to shake off the sand flying towards me. Let's see, where should I go first? Perhaps I should head north, where the suspicious stone structure seemed to have flown off. Or maybe west, towards the direction of Biokra. Chapter 55, Heavenly Thunder 2. The decision didn't take long. I should head north. I miss human interaction, but the stone structure in the north intrigued me more. I decided to wait until nightfall. When night fell and the stars rose, I read the constellations to ascertain my current location and roughly determine the position of Biokra. Then, forming a hand seal, I created a dirt platform from the sand and rode it across the desert. Whoosh. As I headed north, I constantly employed the earth listening technique towards the underground, thinking that if there was a stone structure, it might be buried under the sands of the desert. The stone is unique, unfamiliar, very solid and sturdy. Even if it was a building from thousands of years ago, it wouldn't have eroded by now. It should be possible to find it. Whoosh, days passed, a sandstorm blew in. I bent the earth attribute spiritual power around me to deflect the sands from the platform. Days passed since heading north. I'm constantly using the earth listening technique to scan underground, but nothing's been found. It seems it was either further north or buried too deep for my earth listening technique to detect. It has to be one or the other. Honestly, searching the entire heaven-treading desert seems a bit foolish. How long would it take to comb through this desert? Perhaps it was wiser to give up and head to Biokra to see familiar faces. I'll head north for one more day, and if there's nothing, I'll change course to Biokra. Whoosh, as I faced the sandstorm, I sighed deeply. Everywhere I looked, there was only sand. Then I saw something. Up ahead, there was something protruding above the sandy surface. It was a small stone, its color identical to that of the stone structure. That's it. I quickly maneuvered the platform towards the stone. This is mostly buried. This small part seemed to have emerged due to the sand being swept away by the sandstorm. Using the earth listening technique, I determined the extent of the buried section. It definitely seems to be the same material as the stone structure, but just a part of it. It was like a plaque. I formed a hand seal to excavate the stone from the sand. The rectangular stone plaque had ancient script inscribed on it. However, the back part was either broken or damaged, not visible. Looking at the damaged part of the plaque, I realized that its shape matched the fragment I had seen next to the stone structure on Ascension Path. There must be a thunder character following this. What could this ancient script mean? I interpreted the script on the stone plaque, slowly deciphering its meaning. This is metal? No, does it mean shining? Golden color, I should interpret it as gold, it seems. Recalling my studies as a chief advisor of the Woolen Alliance, I carefully deciphered the script. Then I felt an odd sense of unease. This is spirit, a divine being. I should interpret it as divine, and the last character before the damage is. I furrowed my brow while interpreting the last of the 3 characters inscribed on the plaque. Heaven. Following this, there's a fragment on the Ascension Path stone structure that fits perfectly, with the thunder character. Golden Divine Heaven Thunder. My eyes widened. Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. Did the stone structure have a connection with the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect? Thinking about it, the monument under the thunderclouds absorbing lightning was quite fitting for the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. But what was strange was the treatment of the stone structure. It appears to be a building or shrine related to the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. Why was a building of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, whose Grand Master had gone to the Ascension Gate, torn apart and discarded like this? While frequenting the Chungmun clan's library, I had read about the locations of famous cultivation sects. Heaven Creation Sect in the northern grasslands of Byokra, Blackbone Valley on one of the islands in the southern sea of Yongyuo, Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect in the western mountains of Shengjai. Considering Yongyuo, east was Byokra, and beyond that, the heaven-treading desert. West of Yongyuo was Shengzi. Why was a plaque from a sect located in the western mountains of Shengzi lying in the middle of the heaven-treading desert, in the completely opposite direction? Was this area once the territory of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect? However, every historical text I read stated that the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect had been active in the western region of the Shengzi for nearly 3,000 years. If that's the case, then the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect being located here would be an event from at least 3,000 years ago. Cultivators live very long, resulting in history being immensely vast, far surpassing common sense. It's impossible to know what happened during that lengthy period. I might have to look into it later, or maybe ask Jin Byukho in my next life. Considering his temperament, if I dared to ask such a question, he'd likely strike me down with lightning for speaking so boldly as a mere Kai refining cultivator. Thinking about it soured my mood. Why are cultivators so brutally violent? I was lost in these thoughts when the sandstorm intensified. I saw something beyond the sandstorm. Focusing my vision, I glimpsed what seemed to be a castle shrouded in the storm. A dark castle stood beyond the sandstorm. Is someone there? Just as curiosity began to stir, a sudden realization hit me. I smell blood. I felt a sinister and ominous energy emanating from the castle. With the experience and intuition accumulated over several lifetimes and a hint of inspiration granted by the heavens, I was warned. It is extremely dangerous. I decided to keep my distance. I set down the stone plaque of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect and turned my disc around, quickly heading south along the way I had come. After a while, I managed to escape the sandstorm. Whoosh! Phew! That was intense. The sandstorm was one thing, but the malevolence and the blood scent felt from that castle seen through the storm were enough to send chills down my spine. Heaven-treading desert? I thought it was safe, being nothing but sand. Perhaps it's more dangerous than I thought. Come to think of it, around this time, there were reports of a massacre near the heaven-treading desert. Because of that incident, the neighboring clans of Chungmun, Bayuk, Gongmyo, including the Makli and Jin of Yongyuo, The clans in Shengzi and the core formation cultivators in the states further east of the heaven-treading desert were all on high alert. Was that castle related to what I just saw? I surmised that the castle was likely connected to the reported massacre near the heaven-treading desert. Had I foolishly continued towards that castle out of curiosity, I might have been on my way to the next life by now. Shivering, I continued south along the path I had come. Night fell again. It was time to check my location using the constellations. Wait! Something was off. The desert landscape had changed due to the sandstorm, so I hadn't thought much of it. Even if the positions of the surrounding sand dunes had shifted greatly, it was to be expected. But after observing the constellations, I felt something amiss. I fled south upon seeing the castle, but why? Had I ended up near Biokra in the far west, Shutter, a cultivator's formation array? That place must have been inhabited by a high-level cultivator, with an immensely vast formation spread around. I was able to exit with my direction skewed just by approaching the outskirts of the formation. But if I had ventured even slightly closer? I need to get out of the heaven-treading desert as soon as possible. I steered the disk westward, heading towards Biokra. 20 nights passed. The heaven-treading desert really is vast. I muttered, pulling out a seed from my pocket to eat. I was running low on food and water I brought from Ascension Path. Only monsters who have reached Kai building can survive without food for long. Being just a mere Kai refining cultivator, I needed food to live. Though having formed an inner core, I could last much longer than ordinary people. But constantly using spiritual power and moving like this was a different story. I'm almost there. Just a day or two more to the eastern outskirts of Biokra. A territory of the Gongmyo clan resided there. Among the desert tribes under Gongmyo's domain, I should be able to find food and water the next day. Whoosh, dry, so dry. My throat is parched. I had run out of water. The last of my food was a tree fruit I ate yesterday. Hunger is bearable, but the thirst is unbearable. It felt as if my throat is burning. Just a sip of water, that's all I wish for. Even though I had formed an inner core and ascended to Kai refining, I was not yet beyond human needs, so I gritted my teeth against the intense thirst. I never thought I'd miss those detestable Mackley clans so much. More precisely, I yearned for their water-based spells. The earth-surpassing path is convenient, but in this extreme situation, it is far from a method to procure water. Damn, I'm dying of thirst. Am I going to die from a lack of water in this life? I've died several times, but it's not an experience I'm keen to repeat. That's when I saw them. Far away, someone in white robes appeared. A person. Perhaps they have water. I hurriedly formed a hand seal to speed up the platform. The person in white was a woman with black hair. Her pure white robe contrasted with her jet-black hair. She wore a multicolored glass bracelet on her wrist and a jade ornament on her waist. Her appearance was more serene than beautiful, with an air of stubbornness about her. She had a domain of consciousness around her brow. A cultivator. "Excuse me," I stuttered, speaking to someone else for the first time in ages. Perhaps? You seem thirsty. Please drink." Thank you." I took the water pouch she offered and drank desperately. Water lukewarm, but it was the most heavenly drink I'd ever tasted. Gulp, gulp, gulp. "Ah, I owe you my life. Thank you, miss." "No need. There's a city not far from here. You're traveling from the east, right? You're dressed oddly." I have my reasons. What's the name of this nearby city?" "It's called Chinsik City." "Just a little southeast, and you'll find it. It seems you're a fellow Taoist. If you use the same technique you used to get here, you'll arrive in just a moment." "Ah, thank you so much. May I know your name, miss, so I can repay you later?" She shook her head at my words. "It's only natural to help travelers in the desert. I'm fine, take care. I have to find materials for my magical artifacts around here." She formed a hand seal and surfed away on the sand like a wave. About Kai refining 13th star, such a kind lady. I bowed in the direction she had gone, paying my respects, then steered the platform in the direction she had indicated. Just as she said, in a short while, I arrived at Chinsik City, located at the eastern end of Biokra. Chinsik City, named after Gongmyo Chinsik, the Kai building cultivator from Gongmyo clan. As I heard from the Chungmun clan, it was a famous place where all kinds of magical artifacts were traded. Also, the glassware produced in the city was considered artistic, sought after by many places. Of course, I had no interest in such things. I beat up some bandits around Chinsik City, turned them in for a bounty, and used the reward to buy basic clothes, water, and food. Then I headed towards the western part of Byokra, towards Chungmun clan's territory. My lifespan is now down to about 9 years. Though I've been delayed by 40 years, focusing only on rituals, I intend to check on the connections from my past life. First, I decided to visit my master. Translator notes. Hehe. Heavenly Golden Thunder Sect will be officially called Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. Chapter 56. Heavenly Thunder 3. Master resides in the main house of the Chungmun clan. Being part of the main house of the Chungmun clan, a family that values the Tao of combat, meant one had to be within the top 50 in the Immortal Combat meeting. It also implied that Master was in one of the most crucial positions in the Chungmun clan. For an ordinary clan, a nobody like me suddenly meeting an elder in one of the most important positions of the clan would be nearly impossible. Of course, that's if it were an ordinary clan. Applicants for the training conference led by the Chungmun clan, please come this way. The Chungmun clan, following in the footsteps of their founder Sir Chang-ho, revered the Tao of combat. Apart from the Immortal Combat meeting organized for the Chungmun clan members, they gathered Kai refining cultivators every few years for a training conference, a sparring competition to recruit external clan members. The winner, runner-up, and third place of the training conference would all enter the Chungmun clan as external members, while other finalists would gain the right to become the family's lower-ranking cultivators. But the most important thing was that the winner of the training conference could make a small wish to the Chungmun clan, such as meeting a Kai-building elder for a brief time to receive teachings. Your registration is complete. Next, I approached the registration desk and said to the officer, "My name is Seo Yunhyun, origin from Byokra, Chinsik City. My cultivation is Kai refining 9th star of the 5 elements. I am practicing an earth attribute method." "Huh, Kai refining 9th star?" The officer looked at me with surprise. He was an external member of the Chungmun clan at the Kai refining 6th star. "No. Senior, with your level, you don't need to participate in the training conference. Just apply for the external member recruitment and pass the interview. You'll be accepted right away." Most lower-ranking Kai refining cultivators were around the 2nd or 3rd star, and most external members were between the 4th and 9th star. Cultivators above that level were treated almost like blood relatives by the Chungmun clan. Before the Ascension Gate opened, Kai refining cultivators were common across the continent, and being at the 9th star was considered ordinary. But now, with many powerful cultivation sects ascending to higher realms, cultivators have become rare, and even being at the 9th Sof Kai refining is highly regarded. The typical winners of the training conference were usually Kai refining cultivators of the 5th or 6th star, but now a heavy hitter like me had appeared. As I looked around, I could feel the other participants coughing and avoiding my gaze. Haha, it seems that those who are new to the Chungmun clan registration desk get quite confused. Let me guide you to the right place. No, it's fine. I have always admired the Chungmun clan's training conference. Please allow me to participate. But I know that anyone can participate in the training conference hosted by the Chungmun clan, except for Kai-building cultivators. The officer, troubled by my insistence despite the difficulty of my participation, sighed and registered me. I could see the varying thoughts of the other cultivators around me. As I stepped out of the registration area and left the building, I heard a sigh of relief from inside. That's a nasty character. He's just going to trample over the juniors and enter the Chungmun clan. How can we beat a Kai refining 9th star? Shouldn't we just give him a bye? Unfortunately, even outside my area of consciousness, I could hear their complaints and frustrations, as my hearing had become sensitive after rejuvenation and forming the inner core. I'm sorry about this. Typically, an ordinary external member wouldn't meet a Chungmun clan elder unless they make significant contributions. But as the winner of the training conference, it is a different story. Besides, I don't plan to join the Chungmun clan in this life. Not all winners of the training conference become external members. If I give up my eligibility, it will naturally go to someone else. Holding the participation plaque, I entered the Chungmun clan's territory to rest. 1 month later, the training conference was held. The winner, Seo Yoon-hyun. And naturally, I won. There was no real battle to speak of. The participants at the Kai refining 2nd or 3rd star gave up as soon as they met me. Cultivators at the 4th and 5th stars couldn't withstand a single strike from me. Cultivators at the 6th star of Kai refining, who have achieved the 8 trigrams completed path, could only somewhat match me in a contest of spells, but they still lost due to the overwhelming difference in spiritual power. Now, I was capable of overpowering lower-level Kai refining cultivators with sheer strength. I wish those at the 2nd and 3rd stars had challenged me more bravely. The Chungmun clan might have offered them a position after the competition. Looking at the Kai refining cultivators who conceded immediately upon facing me, I felt a bit of regret. Knowing the Chungmun clan's reverence for the Tao of combat, I am certain they would have appreciated even a show of fighting spirit. The winner of the competition is granted an official recommendation to become an external member of the Chungmun clan and one wish. If a Kai refining cultivator makes a fitting wish, the clan will surely grant it. You have anything in mind? The person overseeing the competition was Chungmun Buk, whom I had met before. I told Chungmun Buk that I wished to meet and receive teachings from Chungmun Ryong. Chungmun Ryong, you say? He's my cousin, and indeed there's no one better than him in basic spells and formations. I would like to return the recommendation for external membership. Elixir refining, artifact refining, and formations are the 3 arts Chungmun Ryong is the leader of. Wait, what did you say? Chungmun Buk's eyes widened in disbelief. Entering this competition, my intention was to meet Grandmaster Chungmun Ryong, an expert in basic spells and formations. Do you not understand the significance of becoming an external member of a cultivator clan? I understand perfectly. But there are people I must meet without being bound by the rules of a cultivator clan. I also needed to check on my disciples' well-being in the Jin clan. Being the winner, you'd normally have 1 hour to meet with Elder Ryong of the main family. If you become an external member, I can extend your meeting time to 3 hours. Still refuse? I apologize for declining your offer. TCH, fine, have it your way. Chungmun Buk looked at me displeased, announced the 2nd and 3rd place of the competition, and declared that a smaller competition would be held in 2 days to award the recommendation I forfeited. A few days later, I entered the Chungmun clan's territory with Chungmun Buk. As I was not an external member, we met in a less significant territory rather than the main house. I followed Chungmun Buk to an old thatched house in the territory. The simple yet neat house seemed well suited to my master. Ryong, here's the one who requested to meet you. I'll leave him here, take care of it. I'm busy, so I can't stay. Take care, brother. From inside the house, a familiar voice responded, and Chungmun Buk flew off on a flying artifact. I took a deep breath, knelt in front of the house, and bowed deeply. What are you doing? Chungmun Ryong asked, sensing my actions through his consciousness. Smiling, I responded. I am honored to meet Grandmaster Chungmun Ryong, a pioneer in formations and basic spells. Slick talker, I don't like slick ones. Come in and let's see what you want to discuss. The door opened and I cautiously entered. He didn't look at me but was busy annotating a book. Even on the day we meet, he continues his routine work. Really? You haven't changed. What is it? Don't just stand there with a sour face. If you have something to ask, ask. I'm busy, so make it quick. Understood. I sat down and asked him about the things I didn't understand regarding the Kai refining 11th star of the 3 talents, the 12th star of Yin-Yang Unity, and the 13th star of the One Origin. Chungmun Ryong, upon hearing my detailed questions, stopped annotating and looked at me. Not as shallow as you look. Let's address your questions. We discussed intensely for an hour. After an hour, Chingmun Ryong, who had the right to dismiss me, frowned and said, "Let's add another hour. You seem to have a lot of curiosity." Another hour passed. Already an hour. "I'll give you one more. Listen well. The concept of yin-yang unity is about." After 3 hours, he stroked his beard. "Teaching so shortly like this won't do. I'll give you 3 more hours. If you don't understand by then, be prepared for discipline." Thus, I spent the entire night with Chingmun Ryong. The next morning, I feel somewhat relieved. "Did you understand the theory?" "Thanks to the Grandmaster, I understood it well." "I heard you refused to become an external member of the Chengmun clan. With your understanding, you could have risen in the ranks and been treated as a quasi-blood relative. Even if you've learned the theory, applying it is different. If you became an external member, I can formally teach you." "How about it?" Chengmun Ryong was offering to be my master again. I smiled slightly and spoke. "I appreciate your offer, Grandmaster. However, if I'm bound by the Chengmun clan's rules, there are people I will not be able to meet." "Well, can't help someone who won't eat what's served. Go on, you should have at least grasped the theory by now." I stood up, bowed respectfully, and said, "Teacher for a day, a father for a lifetime. Though today's lesson was brief, I will never forget your teachings." "You're a fool. If you were really going to treat me as a father, you should have just joined the main house." "Go on, I have no attachment or interest in you beyond today." After leaving Chingmun Ryong's house, I bowed once more towards his room and left the Chingmun clan's territory. "A teacher for a day, a father for a lifetime. I will not forget you, master." Even as I travel through the rivers of time repeatedly, I left the Chengmun clan's territory and headed towards the Jin clan's domain to check on Kim Young-hoon and my disciples. News about Kim Young-hoon was easier to find than expected. He was known as the Heaven Cutter. He was the one who beheaded the last emperor of the previous Makli dynasty, Makli Jung, and a founding contributor to the current Jin dynasty. Kim Young-hoon, after receiving various martial arts from me, seemed to have reached the ultimate pinnacle as in his previous life. Upon learning about the atrocities of the Makli clan and that killing Emperor Makli Jung would reduce these atrocities, he brazenly stormed the palace and beheaded the emperor. The Makli clan was furious, sending cultivators after him, but they were killed by Kim Young-hoon. Even Kai building cultivators died, and the Jin clan, recognizing his potential, decided to protect him. This was information I heard from a lower-ranking cultivator of the Jin clan. "Senior, is the tea to your liking?" "Yes, it's quite good." In Byokra, I initially struggled to find the Chengmun clan's territory, but in Yangnuo, having traveled extensively during my days in the martial world, I was familiar with various territories, including the Jin clan's main house. The only place I didn't know was the Makli clan's main house. This lower-ranking cultivator was someone I had a brief connection with during my days as chief advisor in the Wulin Alliance. Back then, he was someone who groveled before me and Kim Young-hoon, barely hanging on at the 36 heavenly gang decrees of the Kai refining second star. When he realized I had reached the 5 elements, he immediately bowed and called me senior, offering me tea. I asked him a few questions and learned about the recent events in Yangnuo. "So, where are you at in the 36 heavenly gang decrees?" "I'm currently consolidating the decree of heavenly ferocity." "Do you have any difficulties understanding it?" I shared detailed explanations about the 36 heavenly gang decrees and provided guidance on his difficulties. Initially interested, he soon showed signs of boredom and confusion, so I wrapped up the lecture. "I'll stay here for a few days. Regarding Heaven Cutter, inform the Jin clan about my arrival. While I'm here, I'm willing to answer any questions regarding cultivation." Relieved, the Kai refining cultivator nodded and went to contact the Jin clan. I understood why my master valued me. Geniuses don't need his teachings, but those who do lack perseverance. I felt a tinge of bitterness. A few days later, Kim Young-hoon arrived. It's been a long time. It has indeed. After 40 years, we stood awkwardly for a moment. "You seem to have become a cultivator, your consciousness and spiritual power." "Yes, I've reached the middle-high level of Kai refining." "Good. This world is suited for cultivators. How have you been?" There have been various events, but Kim Hyung, no, Director Kim Young-hoon. I raised my hand and a little star formed on top of my palm. Astonishment appeared in his eyes. Let's have a match. What kind of duel would it be, with both of us having reached the realm of ultimate pinnacle in martial arts? Chapter 57, Heavenly Thunder 4. That is, Kim Young-hoon stared blankly at the gang sphere that had formed in my hand. Twitch, twitch. The whirlwind of formidable intent contained within the gang sphere. Realizing its significance, Kim Young-hoon trembled all over, his eyes bulging as he stared at me. Then he started to laugh. Ha 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 ha, ha ha ha. Staggering, he suddenly collapsed onto the ground, tears streaming down his face. His intent, incomparable to what I had seen before, was shining in a brilliant golden light. There was another, besides me, who has reached this realm. Whoosh, his intent blazed even brighter, resembling a sun in its intensity. However, I felt a chill run down my spine. The sun-like intent before me seemed like the jaws of a lion, ready to pounce at any moment. He is excited. Until now, I thought the martial world was filled with fools. The vast majority linger in the secondary stage of physical combat, and those with exceptional talent could only see intent in basic red and blue hues. At most, they reach the three flowers gather at the summit, seeing maybe 3, 4, or at best, a dozen colors of intent. I never expected anyone to reach the same realm as me. I desperately hoped that someone might reach the 5 energies converging to the origin, but crack, crackle. Small stones and sand on the ground vibrated with energy. The lower-ranking cultivator of the Jin clan, sensing the ominous atmosphere, already flew far away. The realm of 5 energies converging to the origin, a stage that scarcely appears once every few hundred years across the continent. Yes, it's understandable since it's an enlightenment that overturns the inherent limits of one's birth. But it's always been so utterly empty. I tensed up. Kim Young-hoon is very excited. That means, even when fighting cultivators, it was only about matching levels. There was no one who could truly exchange martial prowess with me. No one who could fulfill my deep craving. Kim Young-hoon opened his right palm. From within his palm burst a star, and like me, a gang sphere appeared. Finally, I can resolve this grudge. With a brilliantly shining smile, he lifted the gang sphere. Whoosh! The gang sphere spun and split into 3. Then each of those 3 split again. 9 gang spheres lined up behind Kim Young-hoon. Let's play. Whoosh! In an instant, Kim Young-hoon's figure vanished from before my eyes. There wasn't even a moment to read his intent. It was sheer speed. I instinctively ducked, driven almost entirely by reflex. Boom! The sound of breaking air echoed, and Kim Young-hoon's saber slightly trimmed my hair. Is he crazy, swinging at me with the intent to kill? Apparently, he lost his mind upon encountering someone of a similar level after 40 years of solitary existence. If it weren't for the reaction speed granted by the inner core, I would have been dead. Kim Young-hoon's intent was palpable. What are you doing, playing around? Come at me properly. Whoosh! Suddenly, Kim Young-hoon's palm was right in front of me. Blinded by the dazzling light of the gang sphere targeting my head, his movements seemed choppy and hard to follow. Back in my past life, it was just a playful spar. Is this the power of an experienced master who has reached the ultimate pinnacle? I exerted all my internal energy to counter the gang sphere flying at me with my own. Light erupted, pushing us both back. Countless sword and saber scars sparked, creating a storm. I need to create some distance. I quickly formed another gang sphere and prepared for the next move. Fast. Aside from the fact that he could create 9 gang spheres at once, he was too fast for me to even react. It was a relief that Kim Young-hoon was using slow moves. If he had used his extremely fast moves, I might have been killed instantly. I need to get to a more isolated place like a mountain valley. Then Kim Young-hoon's hand grasped my head. What? SSSSSH boom. An immense force erupted from his palm, sending me flying far away. I was thrown from the manor where the Kai refining cultivator lived, away from the mortals, and crashed into a valley outside the city. Cough. I spat out a mouthful of blood and got up. If I hadn't instinctively used protective Gang Kai, my head would have been crushed. What's going on? It feels like time is being cut off. My reactions are. It's not just the effect of the inner core, there's something different about Kim Young-hoon. Thump, just like before, Kim Young-hoon unnaturally appeared right before my eyes. It's as if a scene from a movie has been abruptly cut. This isn't like the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, which cuts perception to create illusions. He's just solely too fast. He's moving so swiftly that even with my reaction speed at the ultimate pinnacle, his actions appear disjointed and impossible to follow. What the? What are you doing? Why aren't you reacting properly? Kim Young-hoon looked at me quizzically for a moment and then seemed to realize something, nodding his head. Ah, I see. You haven't been at this realm for very long. That's true. Well then, you're probably not adept to using the power of this realm. If you properly harness the power of this level, you can easily do this much. Now that I look at it, you're only managing one gang sphere at a time. He inhaled deeply, smiling as if enjoying himself. Well, this is more a matter of technique than talent. Once you learn it, you should be able to apply it easily. I'll teach you, so grow while sparring. Wait, I'm not. I wanted to say that I'm not a monster who grows during battle like him, but I had to hurriedly deploy defensive Gang Kai to block Kim Young-hoon's kick, coming at me with extreme speed. Boom. A giant rock behind me, about 3 meters in size, couldn't withstand the shockwave released and shattered into pieces. Don't worry, I'll teach you so you can grow. His intent echoes around me. I concentrate to the utmost to survive and enter the world of intent at that moment. What? Why are there 10 Kim Young-hoons? I quickly alternate my focus between the real world and the world of intent. In reality, there is clearly only one Kim Young-hoon, but in the world of intent, there are 10 of him. This is. And in the place where Kim Young-hoon stood in the world of intent, there were gang spheres in reality. 1 Kim Young-hoon and 9 gang spheres. First of all, gang sphere isn't just a bomb to throw and explode. Thud, 10 Kim Young-hoons rush at me simultaneously. He seems to have controlled his speed, and this time our reaction speeds are similar. However, in the world of intent, 10 Kim Young-hoons vividly assault me. Even a single hit from one of them is dangerous. One is an ultimate pinnacle master, and the other 9 are gang spheres that could slice my body apart upon explosion. Ugh! The biggest problem is that the gang spheres are also using intent to fight. It's as if 10 masters of equal level are surrounding and competing with me in the world of intent. Naturally, I'm overwhelmed in the battle of intent, and I allow Kim Young-hoon's punch through my guard. Thump! Ugh! Gang sphere isn't just a compressed bomb of internal energy. It's another self, a split spirit. It's a stage far beyond dual energy sword control or dual energy saber control, where you input the next action into the weapon with your intent and consciousness. Here, you input your very self into it. That's why once you can handle one gang sphere, your combat power multiplies. We exchange blows. If I attack the lower body, 10 Kim Young-hoons stab at me from all directions, and while dealing with them, Kim Young-hoon's knee strikes my waist. If I thrust at the midsection, 10 Kim Young-hoons use different techniques to disrupt the flow of intent. In the meantime, the real Kim Young-hoon strikes my shoulder with the back of his blade. When I attempt to strike high, Kim Young-hoons from all around attack me, forcing me to hastily retreat. Ugh! As I radiate intent, branches and pebbles rise around me. I imbue the branches and pebbles with energy, creating thousands of sword energies to counter the many Kim Young-hoons. Flash, flash, flash. A bright light sweeps through, and 9 of the Kim Young-hoons simultaneously explode. With a whirl of light, countless saber marks slice through my sword energies. Then, from behind the real Kim Young-hoon, another 9 Kim Young-hoons walk out again. In reality, he's drawing gang spheres from his hand, but in the world of intent, it's a completely different scene. Another self. Spontaneously, I extend my hand in the same manner as Kim Young-hoon, with a blank expression. Gang sphere also emanates from my palm. Simultaneously, another me emerged from behind, grasping the gang sphere that had burst forth from my palm. Ah, I understand. Somehow it all makes sense. Myself. Yes, if sword control involves inputting intent into a weapon for its next action, then gang sphere involves inputting myself into the gang kai. If I truly enter into within, then myself becoming another source of intent is also possible. Is it not? Whoosh, my vision split. It felt as if my consciousness had been divided. I only had one consciousness. But now I feel as if I have two. Simultaneously, my own figure became distinctly visible in the world of intent. In front of 10 Kim Young-hoon stood two of me. Their eyes sparkled with interest. So, are you getting the hang of it now? Indeed. I smile wryly and assume a fighting stance. The other me also took up a different fighting stance. This was more about technique and understanding the realm rather than talent. Thus, even I, lacking talent, managed to grasp it in such a short period. The situation of 10 against 1 and 10 against 2 will be quite different. Whoosh, whoosh. The exchange of intents ensued, and so did the actual exchange of blows between me and Kim Young-hoon. Good, you seem to have grasped this much. Shall we move to the next stage? Kim Young-hoon's complexion seemed to burn with a golden light. Simultaneously, one Kim Young-hoon walked towards the original body and merged within. From a visual perspective, Kim Young-hoon had placed one of the surrounding gang sphere in his hand. Dangerous. The moment my instincts warned me, I didn't hesitate to leap into the air. Boom! A fan-shaped energy burst forth, cutting the spot I had been standing on and the trees beyond. It was as if, just like before, time had been cut off. And then Kim Young-hoon, who suddenly appeared in that spot, looked at me. Crash, cough. Before I knew it, Kim Young-hoon's hand was clutching my face. I instinctively spread my protective gang kai, and Kim Young-hoon's foot kicked my stomach 3 times. Bang, boom, boom. Explosions resounded as I soared into the sky. Had I not used protective gang kai, my waist would have been gone. Puff, I pierced through the clouds. A sea of white clouds spread beneath me. But I had no time to appreciate the beautiful scenery as I focused my consciousness and spread my protective gang kai. Watch carefully. Boom, once again, Kim Young-hoon, who suddenly appears in front of me, swings his saber. Clouds trail from behind. Considering your level, I've only doubled the speed. Kyuang. He struck me down with his saber, and I plunged through the clouds back to the ground. If it wasn't for the reaction speed granted by my inner core, I wouldn't have lasted this long, doubled the speed. I recalled the merging of 2 Kim Young-hoons. Clearly, he retrieved his consciousness inputted into the gang sphere. No, it's not just retrieval. Whoosh, once again, Kim Young-hoon appears right above me, spinning in the air before striking down with his saber. I barely managed to block his strike with my sword. Boom! The ground of the mountain valley caves in and spider web-like cracks form around it. I endured his attack while observing his movements in the world of intent, not just retrieval. Kim Young-hoon wasn't moving alone. He was moving together with another. The 2 Kim Young-hoons were overlapping. Ah, I see, they were in sync. The 2 Kim Young-hoons synchronized their thoughts, doubling everything about themselves. Aha, I'm not a martial arts genius. So I don't gain incredible enlightenment or grow tremendously during a fight. However, I am a master of martial arts. What Kim Young-hoon showed me was a technique applicable within the realm of the ultimate pinnacle. Being a master within the same realm, I could immediately understand such a technique through countless experiences. Come on. Whoosh, my distant gang sphere, another me, flew towards me. And then it overlapped with me. The thoughts of my physical and mental bodies began to synchronize. The speed and efficiency of my thoughts doubled. Suddenly, the world seemed to slow down. Simultaneously, the control and reaction speed amplified by my inner core increased manifold. Vroom. Kim Young-hoon swung his saber again, but this time I caught it up close. Kim Young-hoon's eyes sparkled with intrigue. You finally understood. Excellent. His thoughts were conveyed through his intent. I also communicated through intent. It's only this much for now. But can you accelerate your thoughts by up to 10 times? 8 gang spheres gathered around him. That's right. Let's have a real battle. Boom, my sword pierced through his defense and thrust into his abdomen. Thud. At that moment, I executed a series of 7 attacks. Entering mountain, cliff edge, dragon vein, joy of mountains and peaks, mountain tiger, mountain echoes, valley responds, flowing ridge, ascending vein boom. I struck Kim Young-hoon's chin with the flat of my sword, sending him flying into the air. It seems he was safe, having quickly deployed protective Gang Kai, but he looked down at me with a shocked expression. What, I thought you could only handle 1 gang sphere? Why suddenly so fast? It feels like I had experienced a completely different realm each time I progressed from first rate to peak. From peak to 3 flowers gather at the summit, and from there to 5 energies converging to the origin. However, from 5 energies converging to the origin to the ultimate pinnacle, it was just a slight increase in reaction speed after forming the inner core. Apart from that, there was only a difference in enlightenment compared to 5 energies converging to the origin. I thought it was a bit of a stretch to completely overshadow the previous realm, but now I truly feel it. The world seems to move slower. I've truly stepped into the next realm. I emitted Gang Kai throughout my body. I couldn't flow Gang Kai through all my meridians like Kai building cultivators, but for a single moment, I could wrap my entire body in sword Gang. For an instant, I became the sword ascending vein boom. I used ascending vein with myself as the sword and rushed at Kim Young-hoon, who couldn't react in time and took the hit. Kua-ang. He was sent flying to a distant mountain peak, leaving spider web-like cracks and our blade marks on it. Ha ha ha, so that's it. Kim Young-hoon laughed heartily, dusting himself off. It was a sudden attack, but it seems he nullified the damage with his protective Gang Kai. He was unharmed. Taoist cultivation. You're in the latter stages of Kai refining. Does that mean your consciousness is larger than mine? He seemed to realize the secret of my reaction speed. Yes. Until now, I couldn't react to his speed. However, once I learned the technique to accelerate my perception and thought, I moved much faster than him despite using the same number of Gang spheres. That's because I'm at the 9th star of Kai refining, with an abnormally large consciousness, practically at the 12th or 13th star in reality. Even with the same body and Gang sphere, the efficiency and capacity of acceleration differ. The size of the consciousness itself makes the amplification rate different when it's boosted. Martial arts and Taoist cultivation complement each other. It's like being in a different weight class. Even if you learn the same technique, if the size of your consciousness is different, you're at a disadvantage. Kim Young-hoon grinned and gathered his energy. Well, good. It's a very unique experience, since a large consciousness for a cultivator is like a physical trait. Come at me. It'll be fun. Wuong, one of the Gang spheres circling him, absorbed back into his body. Kim Young-hoon's acceleration tripled. Let's fight with everything, whether it's cultivation spells or whatever. Come at me. Ha ha ha. Once again, Kim Young-hoon and I clashed. I formed hand seals, altered the terrain around me, and engaged him. Our fight started in the morning and lasted until evening. The surrounding mountain valley completely collapsed. In the end, I lost to Kim Young-hoon. But unlike before, Kim Young-hoon was no longer an absolute wall. High but a wall with a somewhat visible top. That was now the difference between me and Kim Young-hoon. Huff, huff. Kim Young-hoon stood up using his saber, now missing many edges, as a cane and laughed. It's been a long time since I had this much fun. I feel the same way. I smiled wryly at my completely shattered sword. I couldn't get up. All the strength in my body was drained away. By the way, you contacted me through a lower-ranking cultivator. Are you planning to join the Jin clan? With your ability and my recommendation, you could become an external elder right away. That would be nice, but I came here to check on something rather than the elder position. I struggled to get up, feeling sore all over. There are mortals working in the Jin clan, some people I know. If it's about mortals, I can arrange a meeting. So you won't join the Jin clan? I nodded slightly. I have only about 10 years left in my lifespan. In that time, I intend to elevate my Kai refining cultivation as much as possible. In this life, I plan to head to Shengzi. Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. I need to see if that sect, said to be located in the western mountains of Shengzi, has any connection to the Ascension Gate. Maybe it has something to do with why we ended up here. Translator notes. Martial arts in this novel is so fun. The fights between Kim Young-hoon and our MC are always a delight to read. Chapter 58. Heavenly Thunder 5. I was able to visit my disciples in the Jin clan's territory with permission from Kim Young-hoon. This life was not much different from the previous ones. Khwa gave birth to 2 children. Man-ho became a father and was teaching his children. They seem to be good parents. Nak-hyun's sculpting skills have grown much more than in the previous life. He also got a new wife, a woman I didn't recognize, probably someone he met in the Jin clan's territory. Chungye is still weaving silk, and the silk she produced was of extraordinary quality. Hia had married Kwak Gi, but they didn't have children yet. They are all familiar connections from past lives, but there are slight changes due to the butterfly effect. All of them are doing well, and none of them are dead. After secretly visiting the village where they reside, I left the territory with Kim Young-hoon. It's good to see everyone doing well. Do you know these people? If I know them, I know them. If I don't, they are strangers. May I ask what kind of relationship you have with them? What kind of relationship? After a moment of thought, I replied. Just a connection. No matter what name you give to a connection once made, what use is it? It's just a connection. Even if it's not a master-disciple relationship, these are connections that will not be forgotten in my heart. Just a connection. Kim Young-hoon seemed curious, but he did not press further after sensing my complicated thoughts. He escorted me out and we had several conversations. What I had been doing for the last 40 years, whether I had difficulties while learning martial arts. How I mastered cultivation methods and martial arts to this extent. I learned a lot in the country of Byokra. Like Kim Hyung, I opened my eyes one day and found myself in a completely different place. Ha ha, is that so? When I woke up, the language of Yangnuo and unfamiliar martial arts were engraved in my mind, so there were no big difficulties. I experienced the same. Must be the doings of those monsters in Ascension Path, right? I attributed the knowledge I had passed on to Kim Young-hoon for survival to the deeds of the heavenly being cultivators in Ascension Path. Tusk, even after abducting our colleagues and doing this. Well, the past is the past. I can't do anything about it now. He clicked his tongue and sighed, and we shared various insights about martial arts in the western borderlands of Yangnuo. There, I received 3 books from Kim Young-hoon. The Record of Surpassing Path and Martial Arts, a martial art system those monsters put in my head. It's the same book, but with added insights from trial and error to reach the next realm. You might find it helpful too. Is the title still Record of Surpassing Path and Martial Arts? I asked Kim Young-hoon as I received the expanded martial art book from him. However, Kim Young-hoon only clicked his tongue in a self-deprecating manner. Why change the title? It's just a collection of stupid trials and errors I've added while clinging to it. I'm honestly doubtful if there's even a realm beyond the ultimate pinnacle. It's like a diary of foolishly bumping into things until something comes out. Sometimes I wonder if the ultimate pinnacle is the limit that a martial artist can reach. PFFT. What's so funny? I couldn't help but laugh at his words. The limit that a martial artist can reach. How many times have I heard that from Kim Young-hoon? Yet, time and again, he had created realms beyond that limit, shattering boundaries. He kept growing stronger and reaching higher. That was Kim Young-hoon. There are endless mountains beyond mountains and endless paths within paths. I slowly recited the proverb. There might be something beyond what you think is the end. If it's Kim Hyung, you'll definitely reach beyond that. If you don't plan to change the title, I'll accept it as Record of Surpassing Path and Martial Arts. Flattery won't get you anywhere. Well, anyway, are you really going to Shengzi? Yes. There's something I need to find in Shengzi, the golden divine heavenly thunder sect located in the western mountains of Shengzi. I plan to search for it to gather more information about the Ascension Gate. It's a pity. I was hoping you would stay and spar with me more. I wish I could, but there's something I need to find. All right, I understand. Do visit sometimes. I silently performed a fist salute to him. Kim Young-hoon reciprocated with a fist salute, and thus we exchanged brief farewells. Shengzi is also known as the Land of Scriptures. It is overflowing with all kinds of scriptures and erudition. And as a land of scholars, numerous poems and collections of poetry were abundant in the streets. Although my knowledge of the Shengzi language was minimal, I learned to speak it fluently with the enhanced mental capabilities of a cultivator. After learning the language, I wandered around various parts of Shengzi to gather information. The country was ruled by a total of 7 cultivator clans. However, the presence of these clans did not necessarily make them superior to Yongyuo or Byokra. The Jinlu clan, slightly more powerful than the Makli and Jin clans individually, dominated half of the country. The remaining half was controlled by a coalition of 6 smaller clans: Ha, Geo, Jun, Yoljian, Ori, and Jian. As a nation rife with numerous cultivator clans, a plethora of philosophies and scholarly works from each clan made it a holy land of scriptures and learning. This was the essence of Sheng's. I roamed the country, gathering information, 1 year after arriving in Shengzi. After inquiring among the lower-ranking cultivators and branch families of the cultivator clans, I discovered the best source of information regarding the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. If you're looking for information about the once preeminent Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, the Shengzi Imperial Archives should have plenty. The Imperial Archives? Remarkably, the Shengzi royal family is not a branch of any particular clan, but is purely composed of mortals. In a situation where multiple clans maintained a delicate balance of power, a brutal conflict among clans, similar to Yongyuo, would occur if a specific clan's branch family occupied the throne. Thus, the 7 clans agreed to let mortals form the royal lineage. During their 700 years of rule, although unable to collect precious cultivation methods, the Nan royal family consistently gathered historical texts, which were considered less important by cultivators. Hence, the imperial archives are said to be rich in histories of various cultivation sects, especially extensive secret records of the once dominant golden divine heavenly thunder sect. The challenge, however, was accessing the imperial archives. Cultivators are barred from even entering the palace, let alone the archives. This restriction was created by the 7 cultivator clans to prevent cultivators from other clans from controlling the royal family. Therefore, not only the heads of the 7 clans but also loose cultivators and mountain hermits were barred from entering, and a powerful barrier was set inside the palace. This is troublesome. Can't enter if I can't break the barrier. I asked the low-ranking cultivator in front of me for clarification. So, does this mean there are no cultivators inside the palace at all? It's completely inaccessible to them. That may not be entirely true, Senior. I've heard there are a few high-level Kai refining cultivators in the palace, serving as royal guards. They receive special talismans from the 7 clans to resist the barrier, to protect the royal family in emergencies, or to replace the emperor when the royal family goes against the will of the 7 clans. So it's possible to enter then? Yes, that's correct. It seems necessary to see and judge the barrier myself. Upon arriving in Jinjing, the capital of Shengzi, I observed the layout of the palace and the flow of spiritual energy around it. Based on the knowledge of formations I learned from my master and testimonies from various mountain hermits, the barrier around the palace wasn't to prevent cultivators from entering, but to suppress their spiritual power inside the barrier. Meaning, a cultivator inside the barrier without a special talisman from the 7 clans would be no different from an ordinary mortal. So, what this means is... I smirked, radiating sword energy while observing the people entering and leaving the palace and the martial artists inside. I can just walk in. Whether my spiritual power is restricted or not is irrelevant. The barrier didn't completely prevent entry to those with spiritual power, but suppressed it once inside. However, I had other strengths besides that of a cultivator. Whoosh. After cutting perception with the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, I casually entered through the main gate of the palace. Rumble. Upon entering, I certainly felt my spiritual power being suppressed, but my consciousness, internal energy, and inner core remained unaffected. After all, if martial artists couldn't use their martial skills inside the barrier, it would be impossible to handle emergencies in the palace. Moreover, the cultivators who are allowed to use their power are all just at the Kai refining stage anyway. In case of an emergency, it seems possible to overthrow the royal palace and escape without any problem. I wandered around the palace looking for the royal library and sneaked in. Let's see. Books about the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Books. I started my reading through the sea of books in the library. I learned an astonishing fact while reading books about the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. The sect was established a staggering 123,000 years ago. 123,000 years. It's a figure so absurd it's almost laughable. What kind of insane number is that? I dismissed it as a joke or a legend and looked through other books. However, other books stored in the royal palace, written in Yangyuo or Byokra languages, also dated the emergence of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect to around 123,000 years ago. While there were slight differences in the years, every book indicated the same era. Is this for real? After all, even a heavenly being cultivator has a lifespan far exceeding 2,000 years. Considering that it's only been a little over 2,000 years since the common era on Earth, these monsters with lifespans over 2,000 years. Thinking this way, even the absurd figure of 123,000 years seemed somewhat plausible. Huh. And this sect, the Black Ghost Valley, 500,000 years. Is this just a numbers game or is it real? I quickly dismissed the exaggerated figures of Black Ghost Valley from my mind and focused back on the information regarding the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Holding on to such head-aching figures was only going to lead to confusion. I scoured information from books about the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Information cross-verified in several books was deemed credible. Information mentioned only in one or two books was taken as folklore. In this way, I gathered credible information about the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect, which is as follows. The Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect was established around 123,000 years ago by a Taoist cultivator named Yang Sujin. I could find no records of this Yang Sujin in the royal archives. He seemed to have appeared out of nowhere. However, there was an unusual record about him, the phenomenon of heavenly rejection. It's the same as what I experienced. During his Kai refining 7th star, when he was undergoing the 7 stars ritual, dark clouds covered the sky, refusing his acceptance. But unlike me, who had to tear through the clouds with a gang sphere to complete the ritual, Yang Sujin's immense talent allowed him to overcome the heavenly rejection on his own. There were no records of what kind of talent he possessed. It's fascinating. Someone from 123,000 years ago also experienced heavenly rejection. But the intrigue didn't end there. Surprisingly, in Yang Sujin's era, there were about 5 or 6 others who also experienced heavenly rejection. 5 or 6 others. Regrettably, there was no information about who they were or how they overcame the heavenly rejection. One of them reportedly failed to overcome it and died of old age. Anyway, the appearance of so many rare holders of heavenly rejection at the same time in one era was a point of concern. It's troubling. But without any decisive clues, it was impossible to draw any conclusions hastily. The most unique record about Yang Sujin was regarding the establishment of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. And so, when the ancestor reached out to the sky, the heavens parted, and a gate of light opened above the capital city Gashan of the Central Spirit Holy Kingdom. Through it fell the sect's divine artifact. Named after the Taoist title of Ainz Audioverse and the name of the divine artifact, he established the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. The people of the Holy Kingdom, in reverence, built a shrine in Gichin City to worship the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. A gate of light. I concluded that this tale is credible after cross-verifying information from other books. I carefully examined the descriptions of the gate of light described in various books. This is the Ascension Gate. It is certain, and the country referred to as the Holy Kingdom in many books, existed 123,000 years ago. 123,000 years ago, the heaven-treading desert wasn't a desert but a land flowing with milk and honey. So, the Ascension Gate in the heaven-treading desert was at the center of the Holy Kingdom, and the stone shrine in Ascension Path is from 123,000 years ago. Those stone fragments are from 123,000 years ago. They did seem dated, but I didn't realize they were that old. Ordinary stones lasting that long seem doubtful, but in a world where beings like flying immortals exist, it's not too far-fetched. After gathering various pieces of information, I came to a conclusion. The Ascension Gate must have been created by Ainz Audioverse, the founder of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect. Was this person responsible for bringing us here? No, that doesn't seem right. The heavenly rejection phenomenon experienced by Ainz Audioverse during his Kai refining stage, and the 5 or 6 others who experienced it during the same era. And then there's me and my colleagues. No decisive connection between these events was discovered. However, I somehow felt that Ainz Audioverse was also a plaything of the heavens. The area around where Ainz Audioverse opened the Ascension Gate was originally unstable in space, with many spatial rifts. This information was also cross-verified in various books. That the capital of the Central Spirit Holy Kingdom was Gichin City. It was said to originate from the phenomenon where space in the sky frequently opened and closed, if only there was more detailed information. Perhaps due to being an event from 123,000 years ago, even the Royal Library, which held information from cultivators, lacked detailed circumstances. Most of the information was like hearsay about things that had happened back then. So, what exactly is the divine artifact of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect? I searched through several books again to find information about the sect's divine artifact. But all I could find was, the divine artifact of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect is a core secret of the sect, not disclosed to the public. What was known was that every member of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect had a close relationship with the divine artifact in their cultivation. The divine artifact was greatly revered within the sect and passed down only to the sect leader from generation to generation. Of course, it's a divine artifact, so it makes sense to be treated importantly and passed only to the highest echelons like the sect leader. It was so obvious that it was a bit frustrating. I continued to look through other books, but information about the divine artifact was nowhere to be found in the Royal Library. Just because there was information from 123,000 years ago in the Royal Library, it didn't mean they had all the books from that entire period. There were only books about very famous events over thousands of years. The incident of Ainz Audioverse opening the Ascension Gate and establishing the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect was too famous, so there was a lot of documentation. Is this a book of folklore? While rummaging through the library, I found another book of folklore about the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder sect and started reading it. The book of folklore contained many interesting but not necessarily credible contents. One of them was about how Ainz Audioverse opened the Ascension Gate. It's speculated that Ainz Audioverse didn't receive the divine artifact from beyond the sky when he opened the Ascension Gate. Instead, he ascended to the higher realm as a heavenly being, obtained the divine artifact there, and then created a rift in space when he returned to this world with it. Indeed, this seems fitting as the reason why the Ascension Gate connects to the higher realm. A rift created while descending from the higher realm, hence connected to it. However, there was something strange in the speculation discussed in this folklore book. If that's true, Then Yang Sujin had a reason to ascend to the higher realm as a heavenly being and then to return to this world. I desperately searched for information about the later years of Yang Sujin. Generally, the records were similar, but his death was oddly recorded differently in each book. Some said he committed suicide. Others said he ascended again to the higher realm. Some even said he went mad with dementia, spouting nonsense before entering a spatial rift. Others said he died of old age when his lifespan ran out, and some said he simply disappeared. Why are they all different? But one thing was clear. Yang Sujin was either dead or had vanished. What a peculiar person. Neither his birth nor his death is clear. The problem wasn't that the records were old and inaccurate, but rather that there was simply no information. There are many records that at least roughly estimate the birthplaces of other Black Ghost Valley leaders or heads of large sects from the same era. However, there is absolutely no such speculation about Yang Sujin. Perhaps I paused my thoughts and continued to read and reread other books, hoping to glean some new information about the Ascension Gate or something else. My lifespan was rapidly coming to an end. I stayed hidden in the Royal Library, constantly reading and compiling information. I never stopped practicing the 5 surpassing paths to cultivation. As a result of extracting the earth attribute spiritual energy and applying the principle of the 5 elements to all my spiritual meridians, I completed the 5 element stage in just over 3 years and advanced to the 10th star Kai refining, 4 images stage. The 4 images stage involved splitting the spiritual power of the 8 trigrams inside my body into yin and yang channels based on the logic of the 4 images. I had already fully grasped this part through understanding before breakthrough, and since guiding spiritual power was my primary objective, I was able to proceed it sufficiently with the experience of training in internal energy methods, Kugagung. Through my unwavering dedication deep within the royal palace, a sanctuary rich in spiritual energy, and by diligently practicing with the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts as my guide, I successfully mastered the 4 images stage in just 18 months. This accomplishment paved the way for my progression to the 11th star of Kai refining, 3 talents unity stage. The 3 talents unity stage involved further strengthening the spiritual meridians to connect the paths of the 3 danshan's lower, middle, and upper. After another 3.5 years, I barely managed to break through the 3 talents unity and entered the 12th star of Kai refining yin-yang unification stage. Heaven, earth, and man are one. The 3 talents are one. That was the enlightenment I gained from the 3 talents unity. Boom, boom, boom. Simultaneously, I realized that my gang sphere has also undergone some changes due to the enlightenment gained from the 3 talents unity. What is it? I feel like I almost understand. Why does Kim Young-hoon always split one gang sphere into 3, then those 3 into 9? Can't he just create 9 gang spheres from the beginning? I lack just a paper-thin enlightenment. But I can't figure it out. What enlightenment am I missing? Heaven, earth, and man are one. Regardless, I completed the 11th star 3 talents unity and entered the 12th star yin-yang unification. The yin-yang unification stage involved continuously circulating the yin and yang power in the divided meridians, merging the 2 yin-yang dual channels into a single unified channel. The key in the yin-yang unification stage was the constant circulation of spiritual power, similar to the flow of internal energy, making it possible to progress through this stage more rapidly than any previous ones. Perberbyang. In about 6 months, I completed yin-yang unification and entered the 13th star Kai refining unified origin stage. And then, my lifespan was almost over. Uung. That day too, I took out a book to read and felt the flow of spiritual power inside me. The 13th star Kai refining unified origin stage is about rapidly circulating the unified spiritual power in the meridian and concentrating it to a single point in the danshan. This, too, required an understanding of the unity of spiritual power and demanded enlightenment. I knew I was close to completing the 13th star. In this life, I might not see the 14th star, the limit of Kai refining, but in the next life, I will definitely be able to reach it. But the Kai building stage is a problem. The path to the 14th star Kai refining, infinite, seemed solid, as I had learned it well from my master. However, reaching Kai building is a different issue. Even cultivators with true spiritual roots need immense effort to reach the Kai building stage. It was realistic only for those with heavenly spiritual roots to ascend to the Kai building stage through mere cultivation. That's why elixirs like Kai building pills, made by sacrificing humans, was circulated everywhere. But I can't take Kai building pills. I detest the idea of even putting such a repulsive thing in my mouth. Eating pills made from grinding up fellow humans. There must be a minimum line of morality that humans should not cross. However, realistically, with my mixed spiritual roots, it is nearly impossible to reach the Kai building stage. What should I do? While searching through the Royal Library of Shengzi, I extensively looked through the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect and other books for over a decade. I tried to find cases of reaching the Kai building stage without Kai building pills. Those who had reached the Kai building stage without them either had unusual physiques or were heavenly spiritual root bearers, or they were exceptional true spiritual root bearers. There were no cases of mixed spiritual root bearers reaching the Kai building stage without Kai building pills. What should I do? My lifespan is now truly nearing its end. So far, I have only reached the 13th star of Kai refining after 2 lifetimes of dedication. Even that was achieved thanks to meeting the greatest master and tirelessly working day and night. For an ordinary dullard, reaching this stage would have been practically impossible. So then, can I really reach the Kai building stage? Time is running out. Why does a single lifetime last only about 50 years? Why is it so strictly predetermined? If only I had a bit more time, I could do a bit more, just a bit more. Time? Kai building stage. My lifespan is too short to reach the Kai building stage. But new lifespans are granted only from the Kai building stage onwards. What should I do? Serac, suddenly, while rummaging through a book, I discovered an interesting theory about lifespan. People say that human lifespan is determined by the heavens. Therefore, if humans want to overcome their lifespan, they must succeed in Kai building to receive a new lifespan. However, I think differently. Perhaps the heavens do not grant lifespan. The heavens merely record the predetermined lifespan and assign fate to prevent humans from surpassing that record. In other words, if a person gains enough power to defy even the fate sent by the heavens will record that person's fate again. The length of the newly recorded fate is about 300 years. If that person again gains the power to surpass even the 300-year fate, the heavens hastily record a new lifespan once more. Perhaps this is the true meaning behind the saying that the heavens grant lifespan. Ho! I took special note of this passage. It was among the most interesting arguments I had ever seen. Why? Is this recorded at the front, a long time ago? The story of a man who melted ice in the middle of winter with his bare body to catch a carp for his mother to eat, and other examples of if there's will, there's a way tales. This phrase was recorded at the beginning of a collection of classic folklore that contained these tales. It's as if the author or compiler of these folklore, who thinks the heavens grant lifespan, had this idea. I flipped through the front and back of the folklore collection. However, there was no author's name on the collection, and it was just a collection without a title. The 2 folklore collections in the Royal Library and Chengmun Clan's library were identical in every aspect, except for the cover and the preface. I tried stimulating the paper in several ways, such as infusing it with internal energy and spiritual power, heating it with fire, and moistening it with water. But the book merely became tattered without revealing anything hidden. Was it a wasted effort? I clicked my tongue and put the folklore collection back in its place. It was an intriguing claim, but it was neither proven nor anything more than the personal opinion of the person who compiled the book. But if it's true, it's a very interesting claim. According to this statement, even if one doesn't reach the Kai building stage, If one possesses enough power to defy all the fate bestowed by the heavens will reset one's lifespan. Then, as a martial artist who has reached the ultimate pinnacle, possessing the power of the early stages of Kai building, can I overcome my lifespan? Certainly, in my previous life, I lived a day longer than my predetermined lifespan. The heavens caused me to have a heart attack, but I forcibly squeezed out Gang Kai to stimulate my heart and managed to stay alive until sunrise. Of course, it was just one day, and I'm not sure if that counts as overcoming my lifespan. Nonetheless, it meant that if one has power, it is possible to overcome lifespan, even if just by a speck. Can I overcome my lifespan? Somehow, the theory put forth by the anonymous compiler lingered in my mind. The compiler's words somehow resonated with me. I have about a month and a half left in my lifespan. Can someone who has reached the ultimate pinnacle obtain Kai building levels of lifespan? Translator notes. Damn. Everyone, thank Jesus. Yeah, I'm not joking. The donator for this extra chapter is Jesus. Chapter 59. Heavenly Thunder 6. When one's lifespan is about to end, the heavens invariably create a fate that leads to their death. In the final moments of my past life, absurd misfortunes occurred continuously, like a tree suddenly falling or a venomous snake biting me, culminating in a sudden heart attack. But if I constantly channel Gang Kai to forcibly keep my heart beating, the heavens are forced to allow me to live a bit longer. If that's the case, what if I continually channel Gang Kai? What if I never stop, thus preventing death? Then perhaps the heavens might reset my lifespan. Just like Kai building cultivators who circulate their entire body's meridians with pure spiritual force akin to Gang Kai. Perhaps, by continuously stimulating my heart with Gang Kai, I could extend my life for some time. And now, having formed my inner core, maybe, just maybe, I can endure until my lifespan is reset. My internal energy has immensely increased compared to my last life, when I was merely at the 5 energies converging to the origin. Isn't it worth a try? I first raided the royal secret vault for useful spiritual herbs and fruits, stuffing and compressing my inner core with internal energy. Then, I set up a formation near the celestial altar, unbeknownst to anyone, where the Nan royal family of Shengzi conducts rituals. Afterward, I unfolded the record of surpassing cultivation and martial arts, and sat atop the celestial altar, slowly organizing my mind and body. I also endlessly contemplated and sorted out my thoughts on the enlightenment of the 13th star Kai refining, unified origin, exploring it through the method of understanding before breakthrough. It must have been half a day, if not a full day, since I settled on the celestial altar. I was immediately discovered by patrolling eunuchs. Hey, you there, who are you? However, I ignored them and didn't respond. This fool. Do you know what place this is? Only His Majesty, the Emperor, can ascend this sacred altar for offering rituals to the heavens. Swoosh. One of the eunuchs drew a dagger, its blade imbued with internal energy, indicating he was a first-rate master. But as I flicked my hand, the force from my internal energy gently pushed the eunuch away, sending him flying far off. Since the force was intended to repel, not harm, the eunuch landed softly on the ground. His face turned pale as he screamed. Guards, an incredibly powerful master has invaded the celestial altar. Guards, guards. As the eunuch shouted, guards swarmed in, surrounding the celestial altar and pointing their spears and swords at me. You disrespectful rebel, how dare you ascend the altar where only the Emperor is allowed for heavenly rituals? Get down right now. A place for offering rituals to the heavens. A familiar place indeed. For the past 40 years I had spent my life performing rituals to the heavens. There was no one here better at offering rituals to the heavens than me. Bring someone who can perform heavenly rituals better than me, then I'll step down. You insolent fool, die! Whoosh. The palace soldiers charged at me, their weapons imbued with internal energy. However, I just smirked and raised my hand. Whoosh. Wah what? No, my spear, my sword, hundreds of weapons under my sword control technique levitated into the air. Whir. The many weapons spun in the air, and in a flash, bang, 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 they flew back to their owners and lodged themselves precisely in front of them. SSSHHH, the atmosphere froze like ice. They all came to a realization that I, had I wished, could have annihilated them all in that instant. A high-ranking official pushed through the soldiers and approached. Bowing respectfully, he said, "Greetings, esteemed one. I am Wukjian, the left minister of Shengzi. Are you, by any chance, a cultivator?" It seems even high-ranking officials of Shengzi were well-versed in knowledge of cultivators. He was exceedingly respectful towards me. If I were a cultivator, how could I recklessly use such strength in the royal palace? I've heard that only the senior members of great clans are allowed to use magic within the palace. Are you perhaps a new inspector sent from one of these great clans? It seems they referred to the cultivators from the cultivator clans who monitored the royal family as inspectors. However, I shook my head and spoke. That's not the case. Then, if you truly wish to know, like I said, bring someone who can perform rituals to the heavens better than me. The high-ranking official seemed to understand my intent, and with a swift gesture to the eunuchs and in a low voice he commanded, "Bring the inspectors here. Hurry!" A short while later, "What is this guy doing?" "Ha ha, judging by his appearance, he's a cultivator. Which clan do you belong to?" "He doesn't have any clan crest. Could he be a hermit?" 3 from the Jinlu clan's branch family, and 6 from the other 6 major clans' branches. A total of 9 Kai refining cultivators of 8th and 9th stars surrounded the celestial altar. TCH, crazy fool. Coming into the royal palace as a mere hermit and stirring up such trouble. Don't you know that in the royal palace, unless one uses a special talisman, all spiritual power and spells, except for the minimal amount flowing inside for cultivation, are sealed? Swoosh, swoosh. All 9 cultivators simultaneously pulled out talismans and activated them. Flash, the talismans emitted light. Simultaneously, around each of the 9 cultivators, a transparent barrier formed, fitting perfectly to the size of their consciousness. They could use their abilities within the barrier. "Die, you stupid hermit!" Boom, in the next moment. The first 8th star Kai refining cultivator who spoke was struck by my released force and sent flying. Swoosh, at the same time, I used my sword control technique to pull the talisman from the 8th star cultivator towards me. Activate, flash. The talisman in my hand shone brightly, creating a barrier of the same size as my consciousness. I could feel the spiritual power flowing inside me now being released outside. I was able to use spells again. Rumble. I unleashed the pressure of my 13th star Kai refining spiritual power without restraint, and my hidden consciousness under the hidden consciousness technique was fully revealed. Despair began to dawn on the faces of the other Kai refining cultivators. A 13th star Kai refining. Almost at the Kai building stage. Ha ha ha, wait a minute. If he's at the unified origin stage, isn't that practically the step right before Kai building? Cough. Senior, it seems these juniors have been impolite. Please forgive us. Their faces drained of color as they started begging profusely before me. However, I flicked my hand and used the sword control technique to snatch away the other special talismans, known as breaking seal talismans, from their grips. With this, even on my death day, I wouldn't have to worry about being unable to use spells inside the palace. I heard that even Kai building cultivators were prohibited from using spells inside the palace without these talismans. They too would need the talismans to operate here. But no clan would dare to send their people here because of inter-clan restrictions. I would also be restless if a stranger barged into the palace, and then a rival clan sent their forces to deal with it. They would likely be desperately trying to dissuade each other and be entangled in political strife. Perhaps the 7 great clans might send 1 Kai-building cultivator each. But for a mere Kai-refining cultivator like me, the cultivator clans aren't leisurely enough to send Kai-building cultivators. There would likely be a prolonged debate among the cultivator clans about what to do with me. If I sit here doing nothing, the debate will only lengthen. By then, my death day would approach. I wasn't concerned. If I overcome my lifespan, so be it. If not, so be it as well. Let's see what happens. Time passed, and my moment of death was drawing near. I had summoned the high-ranking officials and the Emperor, revealing my identity as a cultivator and ensuring that no one could approach me for the next few days. Therefore, no one came near. The likelihood of humans killing me was almost non-existent. In case of earthquakes, the barrier covering the Shengzi royal palace also protected it from such disasters. As for venomous snakes and insects, they couldn't make it unnoticed to my seat atop the celestial altar. Moreover, such creatures couldn't exist in the royal palace in the first place. Now, the only way the heavens could kill me was a heart attack. And even for that heart attack, I have already prepared enough internal energy. In my past life, I barely survived a day, but now, my internal energy was much more overwhelming, and I wasn't quickly exhausted or depleted like before. I could last much longer. If I endure and endure, perhaps the heavens will reset my lifespan. If I survive, the cultivator clans will come for me. If my lifespan extends, I will be treated as a late-stage Kai refining 13th star cultivator and will have the option to join one of the 7 great clans. Even if I die, it wouldn't matter since I've caused such a commotion in the heart of Shengzi without any repercussions. Come forth, heavens. I am fully prepared. And so my time of death has finally arrived. There is nothing that could suddenly kill me, no poisonous insects or snakes. The altar, built of sturdy stone, wasn't high enough to collapse and kill me. And being on the altar, there was nothing to fall and hit me. Moreover, the barrier covering the imperial palace would protect against any earthquake damage. In short, aside from a heart attack, there was no way for the heavens to kill me. The stars began to rise. Heavens above, it's been a long time since I've uttered those words. This time as well, I will wrest my fate from you. It doesn't matter if you don't give it to me. I will claw my way up and seize it myself. Thump, thump. My time of death has come. Thump, thump, thump. Boom, while anticipating, my heart stopped. But then, boom, the gang Kai emitted from my inner core in the lower dantian travels upward to the middle dantian, stimulating the heart nearby. Simultaneously, my internal energy restarts my heart. GRRR, of course, stimulating the heart with gang Kai is excruciatingly painful. But I clenched my teeth and did it anyway. A little pain, what of it? I will not die today. Boom, boom, boom. The sound of gang Kai stimulating my heart, like thunder, rang loudly in my ears. Boom, I will not die. Boom, boom, boom. The stars shine down on me, as if they are watching to see how much this insect struggles. Boom, boom. Ha, Yug, lengthen this. Boom, it hurts. But even if it is a fleeting life, I do not want to die. I felt my life flashing before my eyes, recalling a conversation with Kim Young-hoon. When he asked about my past disciples, what did I respond? Just connections. My connections in this life were very short. I spent 40 years in a mad frenzy and ascension path. The rest spent hidden in the archives of the Shengzi royal palace. Even my meeting with Kim Young-hoon and my master was too brief. But that too is a connection. Just a connection, but still a connection. I don't want to die, I want to live. I hope these connections don't become meaningless. They can be nameless, insignificant, short, and brief, just connections. But I hope they don't disappear due to an unstoppable fate. That's all I wished for. Ooh-ooh-ooh-oh. Boom, boom, boom. It felt like my heart is about to burst. Excruciatingly painful. But I clenched my teeth and endured. How could resisting fate be easy? I endured and endured. Until dawn. If I can live this time, I'll go back to Ascension Path. My altar would still be there. If I live, I should visit Kim Hyung again. I promised to visit often, but have been holed up in the archives for 10 years. If I live, I must greet my master. I don't know if he'll meet me, but he hasn't forgotten me. If I live again. I continue my thoughts, enduring this pain. If I live, crack. My hand, filled with energy, crushed the altar's floor. I clenched my teeth so hard my gums bled. If you allow me just a little more time. I shouted to the heavens. How many more connections stored in my heart could I make? Boom, boom. Why do you oppose me? No matter how much I stimulated, my heart stiffened. As time passed, more gang Kai was needed to beat the heart. Are you so anxious to block me? I kept pouring gang Kai. sending all the spiritual power circulating in my meridians to the inner core, converting it to internal energy. I squeeze out all my strength. Boom, 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 my inner core erupted like a volcano. Boom, 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 haven't I said it myself? There's endless mountains beyond mountains and endless paths within paths. Having encouraged Kim Young-hoon with such resolve, how could I not look beyond the end? Definitely, I will see what lies beyond. It felt like my heart was being wrung out in real time. In real time, it felt as though the myriad stars in the sky were pressing down on me, urging me to give up. It was as if the high heavens were trying to deny me completely, crushing down on myself. Whoosh! I activated the formation I had laid out around me. Boom! The pressure of the spiritual energy generated from the formation gathered at my chest, stimulating my heart along with Gang Kai. Boom! But then, it seems as though the heavens had once again decreed my death. Astonishingly, an anomaly occurred in the formation, and the pressure of the spiritual energy became more than 20 times stronger. At this rate, my heart would physically burst, bang. However, I surround myself with protective Gang Kai, shake off the pressure, and deactivate the formation. Go ahead, keep trying. Despite the pain, I still have enough internal energy. The stars move across the night sky, and the cold dawn passes. Perhaps because I was directing all my internal energy and spiritual power to keep my heart beating. The spiritual power in my meridians, which usually kept me warm, was not functioning, and my whole body started trembling. It's cold. But the morning sun will surely rise. If I can just endure this dawn, it is said that it is the coldest just before sunrise. I could feel the heat draining from my body. It's okay, I can endure this. I still have plenty of internal energy. This level of cold won't kill me yet. Heavens above. Stars. I look up at the sky, growling at the countless celestial bodies staring down at me. I demand you rewrite my lifespan. In the distance, the sun began to rise. It's warm. I had died around this time in my previous life, but this time it would be different. The heavens will rewrite my lifespan themselves. The morning sun gradually rose over the horizon. I clung to hope as I watched the morning sun. But then, dark clouds started to cover the sun. Rumble, rumble. This wasn't the quiet dark cloud that simply blocked the sky and me during the heavenly phenomenon. These clouds, flashing with blue light, were like fierce beasts baring their fangs. Boom, boom. I continued to stimulate my heart with Gang Kai, staring blankly at the sky. A cultivator's intuition, faintly sensing the celestial energy from the heavens, a gift from the 7-star ritual. I sensed the celestial energy telling me that today was my day to die. It is useless to struggle. The heavens were saying that. Don't make me laugh. Flash. Light burst forth from my heart. The star born from me flew towards the heavens. What do you mean it's useless? Why can't it be done? If the clouds come, I'll tear them apart. Flash, the gang sphere exploded, tearing the clouds in a circle. But there were still too many clouds in the sky, and I only managed to create a small hole. The other clouds continued to flash blue, growling menacingly. Rewrite my life. I launched another gang sphere. Even if I have to tear apart all the clouds, I won't die today. And then, before the gang sphere could reach the sky again, Kuong! A streak of blue heavenly lightning struck down at me with the speed of light. My protective Gang Kai shattered. The defensive spells I had prepared were broken. My skin charred, my bones burnt to ash. Heavens above, I'm just a nobody who cherishes connections, just an ordinary fool, just a human wanting to live a little longer. Was that such a great sin? Even my scream was swallowed by the blue thunder and vanished. I looked at the sky amidst the light. The heavens do not change. Therefore, they are eternal. Therefore, they are the unified principle, a singular existence. I felt its will with all my body and soul, completing the Kai refining 13th star unified origin. I reached Kai refining 14th star, then everything went dark. As I reached the peak of Kai refining, I disappeared from the world. That was my 8th return. Translator notes, 7th cycle over. What will happen in the next? Chapter 60. 8th cycle's first day, I slowly opened my eyes. It was the familiar scent of the forest. How merciless. Why do I keep regressing? I quickly formed a hand seal and used a sleep spell to knock out my companions who were trying to regain consciousness. Thud, thud, thud. I recalled the last moments of my past life. I was struck by the heavenly lightning dropped by the sky, and at the last moment, I reached the 14th star of Kai, refining through my realization regarding the unified origin. That enlightenment was still with me. The heavens are both a singular entity and eternal, and to embody the principle of this oneness within me, the path of cultivation, after all, might be about becoming like the heavens. I had encapsulated the principle of the heavens within me. Now, I have reached the peak of Kai refining. After completing the 14th star, the infinite spiritual cloud, all that was left was to attempt Kai building. Zing! Arg! Suddenly, blood gushed from my nose. Crack, crack. My head started throbbing insanely. It felt like my eyes would pop out. Ugh! Ooh! My upper dantian was rattling. The consciousness from the peak state of Kai refining in my past life had returned with me. This could lead to serious trouble. I hurriedly ran to where the yellow bamboo roots were, grabbed handfuls of them, and chewed and swallowed them. Crunch, crunch, crunch. As I quickly consumed the herbs, the energy of the dragon vein Kai method circulated throughout my body. With considerable internal energy, I began rejuvenation, being at the stage of 5 energies converging to the origin. Crack, crunch. Every muscle and bone in my body twisted and reformed, achieving an optimal state of harmony. The harmony of the upper, middle, and lower dantians perfectly aligned, and finally, flash, brilliant light flowed from my eyes, and the intense pain in my upper dantian subsided. Phew! I decided to go further and form my inner core, condensing Gang Kai into the air. The Gang Kai interwove and formed a Gang sphere. I slowly absorbed the Gang sphere into my dantian. As it writhed, the Gang sphere settled completely in my dantian. Hum. The Gang sphere mixed with the nature of the dantian, fixing itself securely and evolving anew. After a while, I confirmed the presence of my inner core at the center of my dantian. I had regained a body nearly identical to my previous life. Phew. Although I had not trained much since my return, it didn't matter. This takes care of the immediate crisis. I worried about the increasing size of my consciousness. Eventually, if this continues, won't I return only to have my head explode instantly? It seemed crucially necessary to find a solution. This is dangerous. I remembered the heavenly lightning that struck me in my past life and pondered over it. When I struggled fiercely, it felt like it was determined to kill me. Even a fool could understand. The heavens are not inanimate. Well, maybe that vast sky is just an inanimate object, but the flow of heaven and earth energy through the heavens, the flow of fate, is like a living thing trying to crush and burst those who defy it, and I must continue to rise against these heavens. First, I should move the others. I lifted each of my companions, making sure they were not wet by the dew, and carried them one by one to a cave to lie them down. The events at the beginning of each return are always the same. I put my companions to sleep, eat yellow bamboo roots, and undergo rejuvenation. The next day, a fox comes and deliciously bites off my arm. It's been an unchanging cycle that's never varied, until today. What's happening now is something I've never seen before. The fox was staring at me. You. Yes. Strange, very strange. You have a peculiar scent. Ignoring my unconscious companions, the fox continued talking to me through consciousness. Originally, I planned to simply kill you on sight, but since you acknowledge me as the master of this forest and perform the rites, I'll spare you for now. Although I thanked the fox, I felt a strange discrepancy. The fox's emotions were somehow different from before. You with the strange aura, step aside. I'll taste an arm or leg from the other humans. After pushing me aside with a flick, the fox turned its gaze to Kim Young-hoon, Oh Hyun-seok, Jeon Myung-hoon, Kang Min-hee, Oh Hai-seo, and Kim Yeon. Wait, master of the forest, please take my arm instead. I was used to being mutilated, but for them, it would be their first experience of such terrifying horror. The fox frowned at me and growled. How dare a member of the forest argue with the master of the forest? If you don't want to become my meal, shut your mouth. I want to taste these humans. A member of the forest? What is it talking about? I didn't understand the fox's words. Was there some unknown change in me? The other colleagues were frozen in fear as they sat. The fox then bit off and chewed the arm of Ohio, who was closest. Kayak, crunch, crunch. Deputy Manager O? I quickly ran to her, put her to sleep with a sleeping spell, and applied pain-relieving herbs to the amputated area. Not great, not tasty. I don't want to eat them again. I'll leave now. The fox casually turned around and hopped away, leaving me in shock. I ground more pain-relieving herbs for Ohio. It wasn't just the fox that was strange. SSSS. A red snake with 2 heads. The snake looked at me, flicking its tongue. Peculiar. What are you? You seem human, but maybe not. Confusing. Not human me. Filled with confusion, I asked the snake. Excuse me. If I'm not human, then what am I? I don't know. I can't figure out what you are. Well, I'll leave you be. Let's taste the blood of the other humans. Like before, the snake sucked a mouthful of blood from Jian Myung-hoon and left, finding it tasteless. What the hell? Jian Myung-hoon clutched his bitten arm, gritting his teeth. I'll go gather some herbs. Wait here. I entered the woods, using the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts. Then I quickly ran towards the snake, which was already far ahead. This snake is at the initial level of Kai building. Flash, boom! The gang sphere emitted from my palm flew towards the snake. The snake glanced at me for a moment, then, seeing the power of the gang sphere, immediately rolled away to dodge. Mental link. After creating a gang sphere, I absorbed its consciousness into me. The linkage of 2 consciousnesses doubled my mental facilities. Zip. With one step, it felt like space itself had condensed. To the snake, it must have seemed like I had suddenly cut through time to reach it. Boom! I kicked the snake's midsection, sending it flying into the air. The snake screamed and bared its teeth at me. However, after slicing its perception with the record of transcending cultivation and exhausting martial arts, I approached and delivered a knee strike to one of the snake's heads. Ouch! Is that all? The 2-headed snake, which previously seemed quite formidable, didn't look so strong. Of course, the fox is still formidable, but at least this one I could handle. Stomp, I stepped on one of the snake's heads and demanded. Speak. If I'm not human, then what am I? Hiss, 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 the snake panicked, flicking its tongue. It seemed to be contemplating its words, judging by the color of its intent. I needed to find out why the fox and the snake were acting this way towards me during my return, so I was harsh in my interrogation. If you don't speak right now, this head will be... Okay, I'll speak. The 2-headed red snake spoke with a terrified look in its eyes. You feel like one of our own kind. That's why the master of the forest and I didn't harm you severely for no reason, one of their own kind. Hearing this, I felt absurd. How could this snake and I be of the same kind? But the snake looked to be telling the truth. After a moment of contemplation, I took a little snake venom from it and let it go. Unlike the fox, which always greedily went after my arm, the snake could be considered a gentleman, taking only a sip of blood and then leaving us alone. Considering the fox also included me as its kind, maybe they thought of me as some kind of demon, not a snake. But why am I suddenly being treated like a demon? What did I do? Wrapped in these bizarre thoughts, I returned to the vicinity of the cave. Afterward, I began to create a law-transforming dantian and prepare for the arrival of the heavenly being cultivators. 2 days passed. I formed the law-transforming dantian and successfully activated 1 spiritual meridian by chanting the earthly Sha true words, entering Kai refining first star. Just as I had succeeded in activating the Earth Leader star, flash, familiar faces descended from the sky again. It was Jin Bayuk-ho, White Bone Ghost Devil, and Sir Chang-ho. Fortunately or unfortunately, nothing here changed. Sir Chang-ho regenerated Ohio's arm with his blue healing spell. The 3 each attracted to their side Jian Myung-hoon, who had the heavenly golden thunder body, Kang Min-hee, who had awakened the ghostly yin transformation immortal root, and Oh Hyun-seok, who had the unique holy body. When Jin Bayuk-ho began to examine my entire body with his unique malignant spiritual root scanner, A look of confusion appeared on Jin Byuk-ho's face. What's this? Are you some kind of demon? Again, why are they calling me a demon? Is it because of the size of my consciousness? Or can the heavenly being cultivators see the soul of their subject, revealing my unique mental world? But Jin Byuk-ho, White Bone Ghost Devil, and Sir Chang-ho all seemed indifferent to me and left me nearby. Interesting qualities. But even if you are respectful, I am already burdened with the unique holy body. I'll grant you a recommendation to the Chungmun clan. Sir Chang-ho flicked his finger and gave me the symbol of the Chungmun clan's recommendation. I politely declined Sir Chang-ho's offer and cautiously asked Jin Byuk-ho. Esteemed cultivator, I've always admired the reputation of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect, and especially admired Yang Sujin of the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. Could you possibly bestow upon me the grace of replicating the records of ancestor Yang Sujin? When I asked him in the language of Shengzi, Jin Byuk-ho was startled and replied in the same language. Why should I do that? I wish to receive the records of Sir Jin and preserve them for generations, so that countless lives in the lower realm can praise Sir Jin and the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect. Jin Byuk-ho seemed to ponder, then replied briefly. No. Why not? HMPH, if I say no, then it's no. You talk too much. But all right. Since you show respect, if you're really curious about our history, go to the great mountain range where the Golden Divine Heavenly Thunder Sect used to be, specifically Shattered Heaven Peak. There are several caves there with historical records stored. If you find them, they should be quite detailed compared to the scattered histories known to the public. Thank you so much. I prostrated before Jin Byuk-ho, and he seemed inwardly pleased, though he pretended not to care. This time, he didn't drop any lightning unnecessarily. Anyway, glad that went well. Regarding Jin Byuk-ho and White Bone Ghost Devil, as long as you don't provoke them too much, things usually go well. The next day came. I reimplanted the knowledge I had given to Kim Young-hoon in the previous life, including the records of trials and errors he had added to the record of surpassing path and martial arts the day before. The knowledge would manifest in a few days. Rumble, rumble. The sky was covered with dark clouds. Now, the Sea Dragon King will come to take Ohaiseo. I plan to entrust Kim Yon to the Sea Dragon King again, send Kim Young-hoon elsewhere, and then leave after practicing an ascension path for about 10 years. Rumble, rumble. Storms covered the sky. At that moment, I saw the Sea Dragon King, Cohweal, enter the cave and check Ohaiseo's pulse. You are. I am Cohweal, the Sea Dragon King. I came out of curiosity because this girl summoned the wind and rain. But you mortals. His words halted as his eyes met mine, startled. He furrowed his brows. You, he approached me. Interesting. Are you perhaps a demi-human? Excuse me. Are you a hybrid of human and demon? There are occasionally such beings. Confused by his question, I blankly replied, No, I am not. Do you sense a demonic aura in me? Then Cohweal asked with a puzzled look. Not a demi-human? Then what are you? Are you saying you're not a demon when you're carrying a demon core inside you? Excuse me. Demon core, I was taken aback by these unexpected words. Translator notes, demon core. Extra donated chapter coming in a bit tilde.